Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is our special weekly Falcon and Winter Soldier open spoiler discussion. Now, just to be very, very, very clear here, we are talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier Episode 5 in a very open, spoiler-filled way. So, if you happen to be somebody who has not yet seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier Episode 5, and you are one of those people who don't want to know what happens in Falcon and Winter Soldier Episode 5 until you see said episode, I strongly advise that you click away now. Add this video to your favorites, come back later and check it out another time, but you will get spoiled because we're going to talk about everything in a big open and wide format. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Just a reminder, if you do want to fire in a live comment, thought, question, observation, theory, whatever about Falcon the Winter Soldier, do not use the tip link in the description below. That's for the John Campea Show if you want to send in a question for the John Campea Show. For these special videos, including these spoiler videos, just use the super chat feature here on YouTube and you will be good to go. Anyway, guys, we are here. Hello to everybody in the live chat. Tyrell, Roman, Jimmy all saying hello. Hello, guys, and everybody else who's here already. All right, let's get into it. Let me say this right up front. I think last night's episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier was the second best episode we've had so far. I still think the one from last week is probably the top one, but this week's episode did not disappoint. We had that powerful opening with the big combat scene. We had that great scene between Sam and Isaiah. We got a WTF moment from Sharon. What is going on there? We had the return of Batroc. Remember some of the other day saying, Batroc better come back or I'm going to be pissed. It's like, well, maybe he'll come back, but let's just be happy he was here at all. Well, he did come back. He did come back. So we've got that. And then, of course, we got, as I predicted, as a lot of people predicted, I'm not the only one, but as I predicted, the final two episodes are going to have post-credit scenes. We finally got a post-credit scene in this episode, and it was a good one. It was a good one. John Walker making his own shield. Obviously not made out of vibranium or anything like that, but still making his own shield. The transformation into U.S. agent has begun, everybody. And by the way, one of the things that I've loved about the way they've navigated the John Walker character is he's not, and I love this about villains when they do this properly, he's not just some mustache twirling, I want to conquer the world, I'm evil villain. Like, he still thinks he's a hero, and he has a real heart. That scene where he is talking to Battlestar's family, your heart can't help but break for him. Now, of course, he lied to their faces. Yeah, I killed the one that killed Lamar. He didn't. He killed one of the people who was part of the group that killed Lamar, but you could just tell there was nothing but pain on his face. And when the mother hugged him and said, to him, it was the greatest honor to be your partner. And the camera cuts on him with his head on Lamar's mother's shoulder and says, me too. You could tell he was devastated. He was devastated. And I love it when, these shows, yes, he is our antagonist to a degree, but we also feel empathy for him. And there was something very special about that. And again, that whole conversation between Isaiah and Sam. Now, look, let me acknowledge something right up front. As there are a lot of people who are not Italian Canadian, and you may read a bunch about the experience of an Italian Canadian, you may know a whole bunch of Italian Canadians, you will never really understand, and by the way, Italian Canadians had it pretty good, but even that's the case, unless you are Italian Canadian, you'll never 100% get it. You'll want to get it, you'll very much endeavor to understand, you'll look at it, and maybe you'll even have a general idea. But you never truly get the Italian Canadian experience as an Italian Canadian would. Now, if that's true, then you got to acknowledge, and I have to acknowledge, that as this powerful scene was unfolding between Sam and Isaiah, I thought it was powerful and beautiful, and I got the general idea, but I acknowledge that I will never 100% get it, because that's not my experience. So I'll never 100% get it. I can get it to a good degree. So I just want to say that. So when I say, man, I thought that scene between Isaiah and Sam was a different kind of scene than we've ever seen in the MCU before. And when I say I thought they handled it very well, I understand a lot of people could look at me and say, Campea, how on earth would you know if they handled it very well? Well, I know that they handled it very well to as much of a degree as I can possibly understand. They handled it very well. So I'll just acknowledge that. I'm just acknowledging that up front. At any rate, I thought that was great. The scene with Walker and Lamar's parents was great. I even got a big kick. I thought it was that whole montage of Bucky and Sam fixing the boat and all that kind of stuff. I found that so charming and fun. You know, my wife Ann was saying I could watch an entire show of just watching these two guys hanging out, going to baseball games, or fixing a boat, or throwing the shield around. And Ann and I particularly like the thing with just that little quick flirty moment between Sam's sister and Bucky. Hey, I'm Bucky. I'm Sarah. And then Sam just kind of looking, he's like, what the hell is going on? I thought that was incredibly charming in the midst of all the other stuff going on. And then, of course, we got the Julie Louis-Dreyfus popping up. And that wasn't a one-time cameo. You know now she is going to be a player in the MCU game here for a while now. She's going to be a player in this game for the next little while. And it's going to go beyond Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think. So, yeah, I thought that was really good, too. Yeah, man. I just thought it was great. Again, not quite as good as last week's episode, but really good. Can I point out one thing that was bothering me, though? And then we'll spend the rest of the day taking your theories, comments, questions, and everything here, too. Let me point out one thing that did bother me a little bit, though. So, them throwing the shield around. Maybe this is nitpicking, but it did start to irritate me. They throw the shield against a tree, and it halfway cuts the tree down. The first time we see them throwing the shield, it like goes and embeds itself right into the tree, like deeply, right? If that shield is going to bore its way 6 inches into a tree, 100-year-old tree, the mighty oak, it wasn't an oak, but that thing, then duct taping up some cheap padding on the tree, oh, that's going to protect the tree. Yeah, the shield can't penetrate padding, everybody. We're good. The shield doesn't penetrate padding. Everything's okay now. And they're throwing the shield and it's bouncing off the padding. And here's the other thing. If that shield is burying itself into a tree, then when Sam does the double hand catch of it, guess what? That would just slice his hands in half. Again, it's nothing. It's just a little nitpick for a gloriously fun bit of a training montage. Yes, but I did kind of find that funny. And by the way, when Bucky wakes up, he was sleeping on Sam's couch, and Bucky wakes up and we see Sam's littlest nephew holding up the shield with one arm, and is like, how light is that shield? Like how light is that shield? I get it, vibranium isn't like cast iron, but how light is it really? Because this little kid is holding up the shield with one arm. So it's like, do. Anyway. So, yeah, there was that. That's my one little nitpick. That's my one little nitpick. But overall, I thought it was really, really great. Okay. So, with all that down, let's spend our day here taking your guys' thoughts, observations, and theories about this. Oh, can I throw in just a couple things that I was wrong about? Okay, so I thought, I wasn't putting money on it, but I said, if I had to guess, I'm going to guess that the government sides with John Walker. They did not. So that was really interesting to see. Somebody brought up John Walker having a trial. And I said, you know what? I just don't think there's time in the show. There's only 2 episodes left. There was a trial. Now, granted, it was very, very quick. I think it lasted all of about 90 seconds. But still, they did. I didn't think they would show a trial scene, and they did. I also thought Isaiah might be the one. Like, I didn't think Isaiah would take the shield, and I was right about that. But if you guys remember, I also said that I thought Isaiah would talk Sam into taking up the shield. And the exact opposite of that happened. Isaiah was trying to talk him out of ever using the shield. So there was a couple things that I was kind of had some very, very light conviction theories about that ended up being wrong in there. But man, it was just a good episode, and it was great to see the post-credit scene finally pop up, because I don't know about you guys, but every effing week I'm like, oh, there's like 7 minutes of credits. That must mean there's a post-credit scene. And then I fast forward at double speed. And it's like, son of a bitch, there was no post-credit scene. Like every single week I've done that. But I felt confident that this was the week. And sure enough, we did get a short little post-credit scene. Okay, guys, with all that down, let's move on and see what you guys have to say about this week's episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Let's move on here. We're going to start things off here with Mitty, who writes in, my over-under that Sharon is the broker has lowered significantly. Mine too. My main issue is the broker wants to kill Carly. This is exactly what I was thinking. And the Flag Smashers, so why team Batroc with them? That's, yeah, right there. See, now, I've always thought Sharon as the power broker was a bad theory, but it's the least bad theory. You know what I mean? But now I think it's even lower. Because remember, Power Broker's been texting her, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you. And here Sharon is, oh, okay, I'm helping you out. I'm going to team you up with Batroc. Batroc, who wants nothing. I'm like, what the hell's going on with Sharon? What's going on with Sharon? I mean, I would understand that she feels empathy for the cause of the Flag Smashers. A lot of people do, especially when you understand Sharon was basically run out of her own country. But Batroc wants to kill Falcon, and she teams up Batroc with Carly? I don't know. Now, like Ben is saying in the live chat, it could be a double cross. It could be, but that ain't... Batroc the Leaper is not... You don't play with that. Like, that's playing with fire. That can go bad so quick. I mean, he's already beat Sam before with the wings. Sam had the wings, and Batroc beat him. So I don't know. I mean, this might be dark. Sharon may have gone like completely off base on this. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. All right, next up. Cam K writes, that's so a suit in that Wakanda box. Obviously. It's obviously a suit. Probably made out of vibranium fabric. I'm overly excited to see Sam in a Wakandan suit, whether it's a Captain America one or not. Also, that cameo with Julia was Madam Hydra, and Zemo is heading to the raft. I smell thunderbolts. I'm telling you what, gotta call it. It's looking more and more like they're heading that way. I was resistant to that idea. Some people say, oh, they're going to do thunderbolts. I'm like, I don't really see a lot of evidence for us to truly believe they're doing thunderbolts. Look, guess what? It's looking more and more like that. It's looking more and more like that. It's hard to deny that. And yes, I cannot wait to see the suit. I still hope Sam doesn't start calling himself Captain America, because I said from the beginning, whether you thought Bucky was or Sam was, I personally don't want anybody else, whether it's Bucky or Sam, calling themselves Captain America. It's fine if they want to change their names. It's fine if they want to take up the shield. But like I also said from the beginning, I do think that's the way they're going, and that Sam will end up calling himself Captain America by the time this is over. But I can't wait to see that suit. I very, very much want to see that suit that's in that suitcase, by the way. Okay, anyway, next up, we have Skittle Skilly writes, do you think Sam's new suit will have wings? That is a good question. Because when he walked away from his suit, first of all, that made no sense. The only reason you got out alive in that fight against John Walker was because you had those wings. So just giving up the wings, that seemed weird to me. He may want to not have the wings if he's embracing the Captain America motif, which he may not be. All right, I won't punt on this. I'll give a guess. My guess is that yes, it'll have wings. I don't feel any strong conviction about that, but my guess is that it'll have wings. Cam K writes, at first I was like, okay, it cannot be Sharon Carter as the power broker. But then I thought, what if Batroc is hired to kill Carly? Ooh, maybe that's the double cross. Maybe that's the double cross. What if, like somebody said earlier, what if it's a double cross? What if he put him there to really just get close to Carly to kill Carly? Maybe. Oh, I hadn't thought about that, really. I hadn't given that serious thought. Because who can you get to kill a super soldier Carly? Maybe Batroc could do it. Batroc gave a good go to Captain America himself. Maybe he could take out a much less experienced Carly. Maybe. All right, next up. Mitty writes, low chance, but John's shield could end up made of adamantium. No. To combat vibranium, shield and pre-established metal for whatever Wolverine pops up in the MCU. No, they're not doing that. That was never part of it. Plus, it was metal that he was just bending with a hammer. You can't do that with adamantium. Like, adamantium needs to be melted down into its molten form and able to be pliable at all. So I don't think there's, I think there's very, very zero chance that shield is made out of adamantium. I don't think they're bringing adamantium in yet. And on top of that, there's just no way in hell he'd be able to use a hammer to make a shield out of it. That would just be way beyond him. All right, next up. Cam K writes, I read the Truth comic series by Marvel, and I love that they low-key tied in Bradley's old squad in with his backstory. I didn't read the Truth series. I read about the Truth series, and you're right. I like the fact that they threw in there the thing about his teammates and stuff like that. I love the story he gave. They left it a little vague before. But that story he gave about, I wasn't willing to let them die. I went to rescue them. What was my reward? They arrested me for it, 30 years, all this kind of stuff. I love the fact that they were shining a light on the fact that all of our cultures have some shady shit in their background. Doesn't matter if you're Italian or Canadian or American or white or black or Asian or whatever. There's some dark shit in all of our backgrounds. And I like the fact that they were kind of leaning into that a little bit. So that was pretty cool too. Again, not the type of thing you expect to see from a Marvel thing. All right, Timothy Platt writes, this episode was heartbreaking AF. Isaiah Bradley did literally the exact same thing Steve did in the first Avenger, but instead of a hero's welcome like Cap got, Isaiah gets treated like scum. You're right. It's the exact same thing he did. He was ordered to stand down. There's nothing we can do for our guys. He just went in there single-handedly, got it. He was treated like a hero. Isaiah got put in jail. That's a great observation. They've been doing a lot of juxtaposing of things that happened with Steve in previous films, whether it's the about to hit Iron Man, whereas he killed the Flag Smasher or others, but that's a great example. Steve did the exact same thing that Isaiah did, except Isaiah got put in prison. Instead of being treated like a hero. Cam K writes, there was something extremely powerful to me watching Sam and Bucky this episode really show their camaraderie, with Bucky helping with the boat and Sam helping Bucky be content with himself. Just great. Yeah, they're, again, like I said, just that fun little montage of them just working on the boat. We very rarely get to see MCU heroes just having a day. Just doing normal things. And it was great to see that. And it was great to see Bucky get to have kind of like a regular conversation. And again, that whole scene with, hey, I'm Bucky. I'm Sarah. And Sam is like, I'm going to be sick. But I thought that was terrific. And that was really, really good to see in there. I agree with you on that, Cam. All right, next up. Timothy Platt writes, between how Bradley and Walker were treated, I'm pretty sure we all know who the ultimate villain of this show is, and I'm not talking about Carly. This is why I was fully Team Cap in Civil War. I don't know. I mean, honestly, Tim, I'm not going to pretend to read your mind, so I don't know who you mean. But I was obviously also very, very Team Cap in Civil War. And by the way, to all the debaters out there, don't forget that by the end of Civil War, Tony Stark was also Team Cap by the end of Civil War. I've had that debate so many times, but listen, at the end of the day, you can debate whether you thought philosophically Cap or Iron Man, but at the end of the day, Iron Man realized Cap was right. We can't just go along with what our authority, our government is telling us to do. And so he defied Thunderbolt Ross, he defied his directives and his orders, and he did what he thought was right instead, which is exactly the premise of what Captain America was saying. So yes, that debate's over, my friends. That debate's over. Anyway, Timothy also writes, Carly is having too much fun, and that is definitely not a good thing. Yeah, I think we forget, at least I know I forget, that they keep talking in the show about the Flag Smasher movement has followers all over the world, and a lot of them. And that little shot where she sets off the app and just does her, and then all these people come walking in. It's like, yeah, they need to remind us of that once in a while, that this Flag Smasher thing is not just these 7 or 8 people. It is a global movement that she's spearheaded, and there's a lot of people who follow them and get behind them on that. So good observation, Timothy. James Argento writes, U.S. agent is born becoming MCU peacemaker / anti-hero. Oh, no, I think it's just going to get darker. I think it's going to get darker for John Walker. I think it's going to get darker than it even does in the comics. Now, I don't know that for sure, but I think it's going to get even darker than it was in the comics, but we'll find out. All right. Patrick Conway writes, Walker getting the upper hand on Bucky even briefly pissed me off. Walker, whose serum for 10 minutes should not be able to that guy who is Cap's equal. Let me try this again. Walker getting the upper hand on Bucky, even briefly pissed me off. Walker, who has had serum for 10 minutes, should not be able to that guy who is Cap's equal. Well, Bucky was never been Cap's equal. Let's be clear about that. Bucky has never been Cap's equal. Like whenever Cap fought Bucky, he always fought him in such a way to never wanting to hurt him. So Bucky is not Cap's equal. But remember, John Walker is one of the most decorated living soldiers in all of America, right? He's an incredible warrior. And it doesn't matter if he just had the serum for 10 minutes or 10 decades, he's got the serum. So yeah, that's why I said yesterday, look, I think in a one-on-one fight with Bucky, I think that John Walker could win 3 or 4 out of 10. Because he is an extremely decorated, recognized warrior. And now he's got super soldier serum and he's got the shield. I still think Bucky wins 6 out of 10, but I think one-on-one he could do that. But that's why I said I don't think there's any chance John Walker can win that fight between Sam and Bucky. Like that, I thought there was just no chance. Sam and Bucky are going to win that fight and they're going to take the shield. So that happened. But yeah, Bucky was never his equal. And yeah, he should be able to give Bucky a run for his money. Like I said, I think if they fought 10 times, I think John could win 4 out of the 10 times. But who knows? It all depends on how they decide to write it. All right, next up. Just Plain Steve writes, outside of the opening scene and Isaiah Bradley scene, this may be my least favorite episode so far. Too long for what it was. A lot of setup. Here's the thing, Just Plain Steve. What you call setup, I call character work. What some people just call setup, I say giving more dimension to the narrative going on. And by the way, what you call setup, what is the payoff? Payoffs are directly valuable in proportion to how effective the setup has been. You know what a great example of that? The third Hobbit movie. I can't even remember what the name of the third Hobbit movie was. It was Battle of the Four Armies? Whatever the name of that last Hobbit movie was. I think it was Battle of the Four Armies. But the problem with that movie was just nothing but payoff. There was no setup. And so all this action that was going on screen just kind of felt empty to me a little bit, even though I still like the movie. 5 Armies, of course. What am I thinking? The 5 Armies. It was, yeah. So so many people are so quick to dismiss setup. Setup gives depth to character. Setup gives richness to story. Setup is the recipe that leads to an effective payoff. And I think properly done setup is as engaging to watch as the big fight that comes later. I thought it was I think it was the second best episode. Because, I mean, just all that stuff with Sam and Bucky on the boat, I thought that was rich. I thought it was really, really good stuff. I thought that was rich stuff I enjoyed watching. Sam and Isaiah gave depth and richness to understanding the convictions and what's going on in Sam's head. I thought that was valuable. I thought going back and seeing the Flag Smashers in the park and their conversation with Bucky, I thought that in and of itself was a what the hell kind of moment. So, hey, it's all subjective. It didn't work for you as well, and I totally respect that. But I'm just explaining why, when I say that I disagree, I'm just explaining why I disagree. Because I thought all that other stuff that you refer to as setup, I thought it was very, very rich stuff that I enjoyed a great deal. Anyway, but that's just me. All right, thanks for sharing your thoughts on that, Just Plain Steve. Timothy Platt writes, you weren't amending, you were avenging. Oh, yes, that was great. Favorite line of the entire episode, and it's right up there with the grief line in WandaVision. I don't think it's anywhere near the grief line in WandaVision. Because that line in WandaVision, what is grief if not love persevering, I think is one of the greatest lines in comic book history, right up there with Pa Kent saying, "You are my son." It was a good line, though. You weren't making amends, you were avenging and getting revenge. You know, you want closure, you got to put in the work. You know, don't go say sorry to make yourself feel better. Be of service to them, help them get closure. It's not about how it makes you feel. It was Sam being Sam. Sam the counselor. Sam the diplomat. Sam the reconciler. Sam the de-escalator. It was a great moment of Sam being Sam. And I thought it was really great showing that Bucky was actually getting more growth. Talking to somebody he has fought side by side with. It's not that Sam is a better counselor than Bucky's therapist. It's just that he's now hearing it from somebody he has fought side by side with on multiple occasions in multiple battles. Somebody he knows has been a soldier and in war, and his therapist was too, but he had no experience with her. And talking to him, it kind of got through to him. And in that scene as well, not only was it great showing us what Sam is, we started to see hope creep into Bucky a little bit. And that was great too. I really did like that. But no, Timothy, I disagree vehemently that it's on the same level as what is grief if not love persevering. Like that is Plato level shit that you can tattoo on your lower back as a tramp stamp if you want. I mean, that is epic. But it was a very good line nonetheless. All right. Just Plain Steve also writes, I also think it felt a little messy and disjointed. Good, but definitely not great. And I'm calling it Elaine is Mephisto. Again, you might, hey, listen, at some point, Just Plain Steve, don't joke. At some point, every new character we meet, people are going to say, that's Mephisto, that's Mephisto, that's Mephisto. And at some point, sometime in the upcoming years of the MCU, somebody's eventually going to be right. All right, next up, James Germain writes, I love how after the fight, Bucky just throws the shield down next to Sam, looks at him as if to say, don't lose that shield again or you're next. Yeah, I like that too. I like it wasn't just a clean, good job, buddy, we won. It was a kind of a look at what we just had to go through to get this back. This thing you just gave up. Boom. Now, of course, then that's followed up later with another conversation with Bucky kind of coming to a realization that it is more complicated than I thought it was. But in that moment in the fight where they just, beat the hell out of Walker and had the hell beat out of them, blood on his face and whatever, and drops the shield down, it's like, don't lose it again, or I'm taking it myself. Cut it out back there, or I'm pulling this car over. That's kind of what was done in there. I thought it was pretty good. All right, next up. Pelican Mike writes, hey, John, when Quill stole the Power Stone, he was selling the orb to the Xandarian known as the Broker. Power Stone. Broker. Power Broker. Confirmed. There are crazier theories in the world, but don't forget, he had his planet eradicated by Thanos. Remember Thanos went there and kind of destroyed everybody? Yeah. But that's true. Power Stone went to the Broker. Power Broker. Power Broker. Boom. Hey, It may not be right, Pelican Mike, but I like the way you're connecting the dots. All right, next up, Benjamin GL writes, yes, Julia Dreyfus is Power Broker and Madam Hydra and is rumored to be in Black Widow and the next big MCU baddie. Sign me the hell up. Well, I don't think she's the next big MCU baddie a la Thanos. I don't think any mortal human being is the next big baddie, aka Thanos. I mean, that's got to be reserved for somebody. I don't think it's going to be Kang, but it's got to be somebody set on a sci-fi level of Kang, or a galactic level as Galactus, or a continuity spanning Doctor Doom. I don't think it's going to be Elaine, but is she Power Broker? I don't think she's Power Broker either. Maybe I could be wrong, but I don't feel strong conviction about that, but I don't think she's the Power Broker. But who knows? Maybe she is. We'll find out how that goes. All right. Next up, Benjamin GL also writes, I didn't want there to be another Cap, but somewhere during this episode, Sam changed my mind. With everything going on, both the MCU world and our world needs Black Captain America. Well, I'll say this. I still don't want anybody calling themselves Captain America again. I don't care if it's John Walker or if it's Bucky or if it's Sam. There is one Captain America, and that's Steve Rogers. However, I will say this. I resonate a little bit with what you're saying because of the dramatic work done in this one episode. Like, I wasn't gonna, I said from the beginning, I still think they're gonna make Sam the new Captain America. And I don't like that. I don't think anybody should be the new Captain America. This episode, though, it probably takes a little bit of the sting off it for me as a viewer if he does indeed, as I think most of us are thinking, turn out that Sam declares himself the new Captain America. I'm still not for it, but hearing his mind, seeing all the context and seeing all the dialogue, particularly the Isaiah in him, and by the way, that scene between Sam and his sister just talking on the boat, it's like, well, what was all that pain and suffering and fighting for if not to carry on the fight? That was a good little line he put in there too, by the way. I just paraphrased it. So I still don't want anybody else calling themselves Captain America, but if inevitably Sam does become proclaimed to be the new Captain America, I got to say this episode takes a little bit of the sting off. I'm still not for it, but I feel a little bit better about it when it does eventually happen. And that's a lot. That's a lot for one episode of television to do. So, but we'll see. I still think there's a chance he calls himself something else. He'll take up the shield, carry on Steve's and Isaiah's legacy, but I still think there's a chance he refers to himself as something else, something maybe we don't find in the comics. But if he does ultimately and eventually, like a lot of us think he will be, call himself Captain America at the end, I am more okay with it than I was 48 hours ago. You know what I mean? And it takes something special to move me from that position to at least saying I won't mind it too terribly much. So I empathize with what you're saying there, Benjamin. All right, next up. Benjamin also writes, between For All Mankind and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Friday is a weirdly tense day. You know, I haven't started watching the new season For All Mankind. Like for me, so I do got to get on that. I'll probably wait till it's done so I can start binging it. But for me, Thursday night at midnight is about Falcon Winter Soldier, and then Friday is about Invincible. So Ann and I haven't watched a new episode of Invincible yet. We'll probably do that later tonight before we go to bed. But yeah, knowing that For All Mankind is back, that's going to be on my rotation here pretty quick as well. All right. Next up, Benjamin GL writes, and sends in like a $50 super chat on this. Thank you, Benjamin, for supporting the channel on that level, man. Seriously. It's weird how Marvel possibly cut out a virus plotline. By the way, I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe they did for a second. It's weird how Marvel possibly cut out a virus plotline, but not the Black Lives Matter plot. Regardless of story impact, makes me think virus might might have had to do with Madripoor, and Marvel didn't want to fuel anti-Asian virus stuff. Again, this has come up a few times today. I have not seen, look, I'm not saying it's not possible. Things change in movies and TV shows. Sometimes they pivot and move. And I'm not saying it's impossible that that's true, but there hasn't been a single shred of actual tangible and germane proof that theory is true, like at all. I'm not saying something may not come to light in the future, right? We all think one thing until new information, verifiable, factual information comes to light, and that changes our perception. Maybe in the future, something else does come up. But all I'll say for now is that I kind of looked at that theory a bit, and it's like, there's nothing here to really suggest that you should seriously think that that's the case. So I don't think that was the case at all. Now, again, in the coming months, maybe new information comes to light, and that'll change our minds. That's what intelligent people do. You have a position on something. If new information comes to light, you reevaluate your position. But right now, there is simply no evidence at all, no real evidence at all that was the case. So I think that's just a rumor going around. Anyway, next up, Frankie Gouge writes, and super chats in like $20. Thank you, Frankie, for supporting the channel at that level, man. The more I watch these series, the more I feel that COVID had a lot to do with some of the unevenness, especially WandaVision episode 9. Also, by the way, I loved that WandaVision episode 9. I know a bunch of people complained because their theories didn't come true. I personally loved WandaVision episode 9, but whatever. Also, rumor is a whole virus plot. Again, we've already touched the virus plot. There's no evidence there that anything about a virus plot was actually real or actually took place in the show. So yeah, that's that. But to wonder if the whole COVID pandemic thing, look, one way or the other, even if it's unintentional, COVID affected every movie, right? You know, whether it's a certain location was no longer available, or certain actor schedules were going to be moved, or certain this or certain that, like everything has an effect. And I have no doubt, Frankie, that it definitely did have an effect. It definitely did have an effect. But again, the whole COVID storyline, I don't believe that. Don't believe that until there's actual real proof, and there hasn't been any, so I wouldn't worry about that at all. All right, next up. Benjamin GL writes, it's been a while since a superhero training montage, oddly refreshing, even though they showed Sam knew how to use a shield like 2 minutes earlier. I mean, but remember, Sam, don't forget this, Sam was literally on the run with Captain America for years. I'm sure he would have needed to use the shield. I'm sure Steve probably let him handle and train with the shield a bit. Because if you're in a fight with them, it might come in handy for that the other guy be able to wield the shield too, right? So yeah, that didn't bother me at all. It didn't bother me in the least that Sam was already kind of proficient in it, because he was basically Captain America's partner for years and on the run with him for years. So I don't think that was a problem. But it was a pretty cool little training montage. All right. Next up, Frankie writes, posted my comment about virus plot line before seeing Benjamin's weird coincidence. You're probably referring to the comment that came before that. No problem, man. That totally happens. It totally happens. All right. Benjamin also writes, how is it Sam and Bucky don't address Walker seems... How come is it Sam and Bucky don't address Walker seems strong, other than one line by Falcon early on about this not being you really weird? I didn't find it weird at all, because look, they knew what happened immediately. Like once Walker in last week's episode demonstrated, look, it became clear and obvious. This dude somehow got his hands on a super soldier serum. They knew Carly had them, and clearly he got it. I mean, it's like one of those things that didn't need to be said. Like they both realized instantly, okay, this guy has taken the serum. He's taken the serum. So no, I don't think that was weird at all. I think it would have been weird if really, so Sam and Bucky needed to sit down and go, okay, wait a minute. Time out, John. Me and Bucky, Me and Bucky have a conversation. Time out. Just give us a second. So, is it just me? Or is he a little more strong, a bit normal? Yeah, I was thinking that. You think he maybe took the super soldier serum? Well, he's clearly madly power hungry, and we know the super soldier serum's here in the building. And he was out of sight for us for a long time. So it's possible. Or maybe he just ate his Wheaties today. Maybe he's just like got a good warm up and some stretching in. Yeah, that's possible. No. They knew, and I personally didn't think it was necessary for them to have that conversation. You know what I mean? All right, next up. Benjamin GL writes, and again, like tips in like $20. Thank you, dude. It's weird seeing how shows adapt to COVID, both on and off screen. Falcon and Winter Soldier and The Morning Show were the two I was most curious about. Side, not on Morning Show. The last scene coincidentally had a mysterious virus. I lost sight of it there. A mysterious virus story conspiracy. I watched The Morning Show. I'm trying to remember that. I don't remember that off the top of my head. But again, like I said, I think all we have to do is have Aaron Cummings in here and talking about how COVID like totally upended the movies and the shows that she was working on. Like completely upended everything, and certain things had to change. And as a matter of fact, like Aaron was cast to be a full-time regular cast member on the new Lincoln Lawyer show, but then COVID hit, and the network that had it decided to scrap a bunch of shows because of COVID, and one of them was Lincoln Lawyer. Lincoln Lawyer ends up on another network, and they totally recast, and Aaron doesn't have that role anymore. So yeah, it has a lot of, whether it's a big impact or a small impact, definitely it had an impact on all of them. All right. Benjamin also writes, it was really nice having a slow-paced character episode where the big fight was in the first 5 minutes. Episode 1, half of 2, and 5 are what I'm here for. Yeah, listen, you got to have these moments. You got to understand. I think this is true in a movie, and I think it's true in a TV show. You got to understand the ebb and flow. You can't just go action, 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 action. That's what a lot of the Transformers movies did, and they were rubbish. Action, action, action. You got to, if you're going to make it not just a great YouTube video and a great clip, if you're trying to make a great show, you got to take these moments where you step back from the action, do some character work, lay deeper foundations for your narrative, so that when the action does have it, the action is soaked in storytelling and narrative. And that's why, like that fight at the beginning of the episode between the three of them, it was great because it was already, we spent episodes building up narrative about what is the conflict between these three. So when the action happens, it's not just visual noise, it's actually steeped in story. And that's what I love about that. And a good show, even a good comic book show like this, will know how to navigate the ebbs and flows of that. And I think it's a really nice mixture, the way they're doing it. All right, so I agree with you on that, Benjamin. Benjamin again writes in, so Sharon was speaking French to a male contact on the phone, or did she hire Batroc to kill Falcon, or double-cross Carly or something else? Yeah, for those of you who did not watch Falcon and Winter Soldier with subtitles on, I did. It literally says, as she's talking on the phone, when you hear the other voice, you see the subtitles, Batroc speaking in French. So yes, in case you didn't recognize George St. Pierre's French-speaking voice, that was indeed Batroc she was talking to. It was absolutely Batroc. Which has me wondering what the hell is going on. What the hell is going on with Batroc? I mean, what the hell's going on with Sharon? That was completely a WTF moment. For me, that was absolutely a giant WTF moment. And it's like, has she just purely gone bad? Is she double crossing Carly? Carly is like Batroc there to kill her? I mean, it's gonna be maybe we see Batroc and Falcon team up at the end and saying, "I'm actually not here for you. My George St. Pierre accent is terrible. Just terrible. Please forgive me. I'm not here for you, Falcon. I'm here for the girl. I'm paid lots of money. Lots of money." Damn, my GSP accent is terrible. But, yeah, and maybe he needs to team up with them at the end to take down Carly, and then Batroc leaves. I mean, I don't know. This is just wild theories at this point. Just wild theories. All right. Next up. Also, Benjamin writes, me, when Julie Reese-Dreyfus shows up, Hey, it's Julia Dreyfus. Awesome. Oh, wow, that's a tone shift. Oh, she's funny. Okay, she's awesome. We have our next Loki. I listen, I'm going to tell you what, I love that scene. I love that scene. I thought that whole scene of her going out into the hallways and sitting down and like scooching over his wife and sitting down and having that conversation, I thought that was charming. I will admit, I was a little bit distracted because it's Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I'm like, now granted, as the show progresses, I would have been over it. But just in those first 30 seconds, all I can do is like, it's Elaine. It's Elaine. Everybody, it's Elaine. Like that for the first 30 seconds. Now, I totally will get over that very, very quickly. But it was just a very quick little scene, and I thought it was pretty entertaining. All right. Next up, Always Sketchy. I love that username. Tips me like $20. Thank you, Always Sketchy. And he writes in, looks like the Countessa is the female Nick Fury. She's putting her team together. The Thunderbolts, it's looking more and more likely. Dark Avengers, she's also a Skrull in the comics. More Secret Invasion setup. Thoughts? See, I don't know. Like the Skrulls so far, even in WandaVision, have all been portrayed as they're all good guys. So I don't know. I don't know. It will mean something of a shift away from what's going on in the MCU. I'm not talking about the comics. I'm talking about the MCU. So it would seem like it's a little bit of a shift away from that. But that is a possibility. But yes, I am. I mean, with... Oh, by the way, can I mention one other thing, Always Sketchy? Because this brings up a point. The Dora Milaje taking Zemo to the raft... I don't buy it. I mean, it must have been a part of Bucky's condition saying, hey, I know how we will get Zemo, but in exchange for me handing Zemo over to you, you got to not kill him. Because the Wakandans, to determine who is their head of state, literally fight to the death. To the death or to submission. You either got to kill him or they got to submit. Right? The Dora Milaje, when they actually catch the guy who actually assassinated their king, you're telling me that Io isn't putting that shiny vibranium spear right through his face there on the spot and execute? I mean, there's just no way. He executed their king. I think Io would have killed him, but maybe she made an arrangement. But with him going to the raft, with Elaine now there, I know I shouldn't call her Elaine, but I am. I'm going to call her Elaine. With Elaine there, Zemo going to the raft, how can you not seriously consider the Thunderbolt stuff? I mean, it could be. It could be. Okay, next up. Thanks for that, Sketch. All right, Ben Donnelly writes, it's terrible how government people treat veterans. Isaiah deserved better. Sam and Bucky deserve better. Hell, Walker deserves better. I mean, look, Walker murdered a national, a surrendering, helpless national in front of a crowd and cameras for the world to see. Honestly, I'm not usually one that tries to defend the acts of governments in fictional stories. Usually governments in fictional stories are assholes. But I really don't see what other choice they had. Now remember, I thought they were going to back him. I thought they were just going to go, yeah, you took out a terrorist, yay. But realistically, if you want to apply, as Robert would say, a little bit of verisimilitude to the situation, what other choice did they have? A guy they appointed as Captain America murdered a surrendering, helpless opponent who was begging for his life in a city street in front of a whole ton of onlookers who had cameras to capture every second of it. I don't know that they had a lot of choice but to remove him. I mean, they didn't throw him in jail. That's the other thing. This dude murders a guy in the street, no jail. Isaiah saves other American soldiers 30 years of jail. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to navigate there, Ben. All right, Ben Donnelly also writes, here's a thought. Might Sam leave the shield in Isaiah's possession in the finale, laying the groundwork for Eli to take it up as Patriot? I mean, he may have a desire to do that, But I think Isaiah made it pretty damn clear in this episode he wants nothing to do with that shield. Not only did he want nothing to do with it, he told Sam he shouldn't want to have anything to do with it either. That makes it tricky, right? That makes it tricky. So I think it would be a really, in just one episode, it would be a massive about face by Isaiah to accept being in possession of that shield. Because this episode made it pretty clear, he didn't want nothing to do with it. He didn't even want Sam to take it out of its damn case. So it would be I think it's becoming clear that Sam's going to end up with the shield and try to carry on Cap's legacy. Whether he goes by the name of Captain America or not, we'll find out. All right, Always Sketchy writes in again, like a $25 super chat. Thank you, Always Sketchy, for supporting on that level, man. I love how people all get swept up in the hype and the rumors only to set themselves up for disappointment, then blame Disney. Any thoughts on that? Yeah, I mean, this came up yesterday during the pregame show. It's like, John, there's going to be a big cameo. And I was like, I haven't really seen anything that really suggests there's a big cameo, or that no. There's like one of the producers and whatever said this. Guys, you got to that's one person saying one thing from their perspective. You can't get too hyped up about that. And, there was a nice little appearance in here. Elaine, Julia Louis-Dreyfus popped up. That's cool. Heart-wrenching moment between John Walker and Battlestar's family. That was a really nice moment. One of the most unique moments in the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in that conversation between Sam and Isaiah. There was a lot of really good things. But you're right. You'd think, and you know what I think? As I reach for a drink, I think most of the audience has learned their lesson about getting too carried away with their theories. Because remember me, I think having theories and speculation is great fun. You just can't take it seriously. And you got to be willing to leave it at the door once you go in to watch the actual show or movie. The theories, speculation, all that kind of stuff, these are great to have and talk about and speculate about and engage in conversations about, but you got to be willing to lay them down when it comes time to watch the movie or show and not be completely attached to them. Because so many people get attached to their theories that when a movie or TV show doesn't do what their theory was, they say, well, that's stupid that they didn't do what I thought they should do. You know what I mean? No, man. And the answer is not to theorize. That's half the fun of being a fan. Theorize, speculate, come up with your theories, but don't get attached to them to the point that your enjoyment of that movie or show becomes prerequisite to them filling out your theory. If you ever get to the point that that movie or show fulfilling your theory is a prerequisite to you enjoying that show, then you're doing fandom wrong. Talk about it, speculate about it, imagine it, all that kind of stuff, but don't become attached to it. And I think watching Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think it's become clear that the audience did learn, most of the audience has learned a big lesson from WandaVision, because I don't see people getting nearly as attached to their theories now as they did with WandaVision. So I think there has been, I think we're seeing our fandom growing and developing that way. But there'll always be some people who do get really, really hooked up on that stuff, but we'll see what happens. All right, thanks for that, Always Sketchy. All right, next up, Ryan Gregor writes, I think the power broker is Julia Louis-Dreyfus. That'll be the new thing. Or Sharon Carter. If not, could be no one. Who knows? I'm kind of leaning, Ryan, towards the nobody theory. I think that is just the most likely theory, that it's nobody. I mean, not that the power broker doesn't exist, but it's going to be a character we have not come across in the MCU before. I think that is the most likely scenario. Now, out of all the bad theories, I think the Sharon Carter as power broker is a bad theory, but I think it's been the least bad of theories until I saw this episode, and she seems to be supporting Carly, whereas the power broker wants to kill Carly. But then again, maybe it's a double cross, so I don't know. I'm still guessing here. I'm guessing a lot. We'll see what kind of direction they decide to take this. Our friend Kevin Rubio sends in, so Veep crossover confirmed. That's as soon as she came on screen. Honestly, Kevin, as soon as she came on screen, my wife didn't say Elaine. My wife never watched Seinfeld until her and I started showing her some Seinfeld a couple of years ago, but she did watch Veep. So as soon as Julia Louis-Dreyfus came on screen, instead of me yelling Elaine, Anne was saying it's Veep, which I guess a different generation might know her more of that if they've never seen Seinfeld. All right. The Wakandan Forever writes, you understand every black man does. Oh, damn, Sam. He called you out, brother. Disney went there. I love that they are tackling history and real issues. Well, listen, one of the great things about any sci-fi, action, fantasy, or whatever is when they're able to incorporate real issues into their sci-fi, fantasy, adventure, action. The original Star Trek series, that's actually one of the hallmarks of the original Star Trek series. They were tackling actual real-world issues going on in the guise of sci-fi and fantasy. I don't remember the name of the episode, but for those of you who watched the old original Star Trek episodes, they tackled racism with, remember that episode where they had the two guys where they were just looked like human beings, but they were all white on one side and all black on the other side. Like their bodies were cut right down the middle. One half was pitch black, one half was pitch white. And the Enterprise just thought that these guys are the same race. But they would talk about each other like him and his filthy kind, his inferior race, and they would say that about each other. And then like finally, the Enterprise crew say to them, guys, what are you talking about? You are clearly the same people. And then they look at the Enterprise people and say, are you blind? They are white on the left. We are white on the right. We're totally different. And so basically, Gene Roddenberry and that show was making an observation that, like, you stupid motherfuckers, like all of us in this world, you idiots, you're all the same race. We're all the same race. You know? No, what are you talking about? Are you blind? They have darker pigmentation skin, and we have lighter pigmentation skin. We're totally different. And so anyway, the point is that really good sci-fi and fantasy and stuff like that will find a way to address real issues in the guise of that kind of stuff. And I enjoy it when things like the MCU or, The Expanse, or when the DCEU or these types of things will tackle those types of issues within their context as well. And I really appreciate it when they do that. So there's that. All right, next up, Wakandan writes, they send you here for life, and that's exactly what they take. You thought Shawshank was bad. Zemo, our bars are vibranium. There is no escaping here. No using little chess pieces to slowly over 20 years dig a little tunnel for yourselves to get out. A little bit of a Shawshank there. Wakandan also writes, John, would you take the super soldier serum? Yeah, I would. I totally shouldn't. I would go completely bad. Yeah. Only Steve Trevor can take, or keep saying Steve Trevor. Only Steve Rogers would take it, or should take it. Only Steve Rogers should take it. But I don't know. I'm just being real. I don't know that I would have the strength of character to resist the temptation to take that, to be able to do what Captain America does. I don't know that I would have. Yeah, I don't know that I would. Totally shouldn't take it, but I'm not going to lie. I think I probably would. Convincing myself I'll be able to stay sane and I'll be able to not become corrupted by the power and strength I then have, but I would probably be wrong. But I don't know that I'd be able to resist it. All right, Taki75 writes, I am not totally sold that Dreyfus is the power broker. I'd expect a more dramatic reveal for a character they built up to as the big baddie. Let me address that for a second. I have not once felt like they've been building up to the power broker as the big baddie. They're definitely a major player. The power broker is clearly a major player, but I have not, while they've been dropping the mystery here and there, I've never felt like every episode's been about The power broker, the power broker. Oh my God, the power broker is coming. We've got to prepare for the power broker. You never know when the power broker is lurking behind the shadows. Like, they haven't really done that. It's been a name drop here, a piece of graffiti on the wall there, a name mention here, but it hasn't been this insane build-up. I don't even think power broker was even mentioned once in this episode. But I do kind of agree with you, Tacky. I don't think, I don't think it could be her. Elaine could be the power broker, could be, but I don't think it is either. We'll find out. There's only one episode left to go, but I don't think she's the power broker either. We'll find out. All right, Wakanda Forever writes, 3 for 3 on my predictions. Defeat Dollar Store Captain America. Dora Milaje gets Zemo. Sam uses the shield. I wrote in during the pregame. It's on record. Yes, but as I said during pregame, I think we all expected that. I think we all expected every single one of those things. Now, I said what will probably happen is probably, like, we all think that's going to happen, but we all have things we're right and wrong about, so probably maybe 2 out of the 3 will happen, maybe 1 won't. Turns out all 3 did, but you kind of called things, Wakanda, that most of the people were kind of predicting too. Sam and Bucky were going to win that fight. I think we all knew that. We've seen Sam throwing the shield in the trailer, so we kind of knew that. And we all kind of assumed that the Dora Milaje were getting Zemo. So, yes, you did say it, but most people said it too, so don't take too much credit for that. All right, Wakanda Forever also writes, surprise gift, you're welcome. Now make us proud. Oh, if you're talking about the Wakandans giving Sam the, what is, I'm sure a costume, probably made out of vibranium fabric. I can't wait to see it. Even if it does look like a Captain America outfit, I got to admit, man, I cannot wait to see that. I was kind of disappointed that they ended the episode without him taking out what was in that case. But you know what's funny too? That suitcase is probably made out of vibranium. That's probably $700 million worth of vibranium. When they said Vision's body is just the scrap metal is $3 billion worth of vibranium. $3 billion worth of vibranium. That suitcase is probably like $600 million suitcase. Anyway. All right, next up. Where are we at? Wakanda writes, it's not a frisbee. Sam, now you're just showing off. Again, that's the one little thing that bugs me. If that shield throwing it buries itself into a tree, then trying to just catch it with 2 hands, all it would really do is slice your fingers off. But still, it was fun and it looked good. All right, Dylan Foreman writes, well, Sam just got a cap suit with Black Panther tech. Now he can stand toe-to-toe with super soldiers. I'm still not sure about that. I mean, listen, you can have an indestructible fabric covering your face. If Mike Tyson still punches you in your face, your jaw is still going to break, your teeth are going to come spitting out of your mouth, and your brain is still going to slam against the side of your skull, knocking you out. He's bulletproof now. If it is a vibranium suit, which we suspect, he'll be bulletproof. But, I mean, having vibranium around you ain't gonna... It'll protect you from bullet shots, and it'll protect you from getting stabbed. But if your head gets thrown through a concrete wall, you're still gonna die. You're still gonna die, my friend. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But I cannot wait to see the suit. I cannot wait to see the suit. All right. Glenmore Legister writes, if Sam's suit and wings is created with vibranium, does that officially make him the Black Falcon? Does that officially make him Black Falcon? Because, get it? Half Black Panther, half Captain America, or half Falcon. Episode 5 was a decent calm before the storm. I agree. It was, first of all, it started off with a bang, right? They just wasted no time. Boom, right into it. John Walker versus Bucky Barnes, Sam Wilson, and it was a great fight. It was a great fight. Ended the way we thought it would end, but a great fight nonetheless. And then character work, narrative, setting the stage. It was wonderful to see. I really enjoyed it too, but he is now officially, like that kid in Philadelphia predicted, Black Falcon. All right, next up, Always Sketchy writes, another iteration of Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character was that of Madame Hydra. Yep. I think this raises so many new questions and possibilities for where things go. Yeah, now again, we never take it at face value that just because something is done a certain way in the comic, that automatically means it'll be done that way in the MCU. But it certainly introduces those possibilities. And what they're going to do with this character, who, by the way, is supposed to be in Black Widow as well, the Black Widow movie that's coming out, to see what they're going to do with this character. Because you know they didn't get a Julia Louis-Dreyfus just to pop up for a 2-minute cameo. She's going to be a player beyond just this show and beyond just the Black Widow movie. And when you know the comics, you know there are a lot of possibilities. They don't necessarily have to follow what's in the comics, and they often don't, but those are at least possibilities, and the possibilities are a little bit endless at this point. There's a lot they could do with that, Sketchy. All right, Glenmore Legister writes, Episode 6, where are we? Sam's Captain America vibranium suit, shield and wings. Walker, a.k.a. Walmart Cap, Wish ordered shield. If you guys are familiar with Wish, that's funny. Wish ordered shield, dirty suit, and super soldier serum cocktail. Yeah, he's putting together his own little thing there. But I think Walker is going to be a major player in the final episode. Even with all of his janky stuff, I think Walker is going to Wish ordered shield. That's good. That's the line of the episode so far, Glenmore. I think he's still going to be a significant player in the events of episode 6. How, to what degree, I'm not sure, but I think it's probably going to be pretty significant. All right, guys, I'm going to take one more question. We've been going for a little bit over an hour. We're going to take one more question, then we're going to take a quick little short break so I can get up and stretch my legs and stuff like that. Epic Dub Time 23 writes, really liked that episode. So did I, man. Not as strong as episode 4. I also agree with that, but really took its time to flesh out the characters even more. Isaiah's backstory was tragic. It was tragic, and it gave us a different perspective. See, that's the thing. Stuff in narrative that either alters the direction of narrative or alters our perception of what is happening is powerful, powerful stuff. And if nothing else, the conversation between Sam and Isaiah altered our perception of events and of that reality just a little bit. And I think that was significant. And then I think the follow-up conversation between Bucky and Sam talking about the legacy of the shield and what Sam was saying about it and what Bucky was saying about it. It's like I love the perspective Bucky gave on it too. It's like that shield is kind of the only family I have left. And when you gave it away, I felt like I had nothing left then. Even though I wasn't the one in possession of the shield, at least Steve gave it to you. So the shield is still there. And when you retired it, I felt like, there was just great work being done all the way around. I thought they did a really, really good job of that. Okay, guys, listen. We're going to take a short 3 or 4 minute break. Give me a chance to get up, stretch my legs a little bit, freshen up my drink a bit. I just don't want to be sitting for too awful long because we've probably got another couple of hours to go here. So why don't you guys take a moment, talk amongst yourselves, go grab yourselves something to eat, go use the bathroom, whatever. Relax, enjoy. Don't go anywhere, guys. We will be right back. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patience and indulgence. I took a little bit of a break there. We'll probably do that every hour as we go. We got a few more hours to go, so let's keep right on rolling here. We're going to get things caught up here with, that was Epic Dub Time that we had. We will move on now to Tyler Yeats writes, I love this show. Great fight to start. It was fantastic. Love the heart. Bucky and Sam are great. I think we will see Bucky talk to the old man next week. Who is Val? Is Sharon power broker? I mean, there are a lot of questions to answer. But listen, we all thought from episode 1, Bucky and Yori are going to have that talk. And it's going to be, get the tissues ready. It's going to be emotional. Whether Yori hates him or forgives him, I don't know. But it's an important thing that he needs to do. But we all knew that, right? Like, remember, all the way back in episode 1, we all said, at some point in this show, Bucky is going to have a sit-down, heart-to-heart with Yori and tell him, I'm the one who killed your son. And it's going to be ridiculously powerful. It's going to be so powerful, and it's going to be so great. And it might end up being the best moment of the show. I don't know. Maybe they'll handle it badly. I think they'll probably handle it well. But, yeah, man, I am... That's going to be, and yes, a lot of other questions to ask, including maybe they do or don't answer the power broker question. But I want to know what's going on with Sharon, especially after her contracting Batroc. And we find out that she's the one who contracted Batroc for the job he was pulling off in episode 1. What is going on with her? We need some answers. All right, next up, Epic Dub Time writes, I love the Falcon training montage. So did I. I half expected him to go up a mountain and yell, Carly! Drago! Because at the end, can't wait to see what's in that suitcase. Here's the thing, though, that I was thinking watching the training montage. The training is great. It doesn't matter how many push-ups you do, Sam. You're not going to be as strong as Carly. You're not going to be as strong as Carly. I mean, yes, be in as peak physical condition as you can be. Yes. But I was just kind of giggling as he's doing push-ups. It's like, hey, that's good on you, but it's not going to help you with Carly. But still, got to be in the best peak physical condition that you can be. All right. Marcus is writing, Hearts on Fire. I mean, that's a Rocky IV thing. Anyway, next up, JMeister25 writes, what's in the case? Well, we know what's in the case. I just have to laugh when Hollywood professionals say that these superhero movies and shows have nothing to say. I dare to tell me that scene with Isaiah was pointless. By the way, I mean, look, Jay Meister, let me suggest this. There are, when you say these Hollywood professionals, you're talking about a vast minority. You're talking about a vast minority, right? And you're going to find the same percentage of people in the average movie-going audience that say these superhero movies have nothing to say. The vast majority of Hollywood professionals love the comic book genre. I know a lot of people in the Hollywood profession. I personally don't know any of them that don't like the MCU. Well, Martin Scorsese is one guy out of 1,000. Martin Scorsese is one guy out of 1,000. And hey, let's be honest with ourselves here. For a long time, like before X-Men, the comic book movies were kind of a joke. That's not to say there weren't really good ones. It's just that the way they were viewed and the way they were approached before, it's a different age now. But listen, all film is subjective. That means you're going to get certain people in the average movie-going audience, in professional filmmakers that do and do not like certain things. But it just, when a small minority like a Marty Scorsese and a few other like-minded people don't say, well, Hollywood professionals don't like, no. A small minority of them feel that way. Most of the Hollywood professionals I know, all of the Hollywood professionals I personally know, and I don't know all of them, but all the ones that I know love the comic book genre. They don't love every single movie that comes out, neither do we, but they love the comic book genre and they love the money it brings in and the business it creates. But yeah, I mean, that's the majority of them. Anyway, yes, but that moment, that scene between Sam and Isaiah was super powerful. It spoke a lot and not the type of thing we're accustomed to seeing in a comic book movie or a comic book show of any kind. It was really good. All right, next up, Jay Meister writes, what's in the case? Actually, like the comment so much, he put it in twice. Thanks for that, Jay Meister. And we know what's in the case. And I cannot wait for them to open that case, brother. All right, Epic Dub Time 23 writes, is it weird to say that I'll miss Zemo? Yeah, me too. I really like him on this show. I was actually kind of bummed out when he exited the show and the Dora Milaje took him away. I was actually kind of bummed out. I wanted to see him through this show. I was kind of hoping he wouldn't get his exit until the end of episode 6, but it is what it is. Also, very good to see my fellow French-Canadian GOAT GSP back on the show. The finale will be fire. Cannot wait for the finale. So much to do. I wonder how long it'll be. And I'm very excited about whatever their post-credit's going to be. All right, Russell Amador writes, Falcon and Winter Soldier combined strength is enough to stop U.S. Agent, but Cap and Winter Soldier battles seem fairly equal. Love the MCU and the characters, just slightly confused on the power levels. You know, we've talked about this before on the John Campea Show. You got to understand, in every fight that Cap had, that in the first fight he had with Bucky, when he didn't know it was Bucky, remember, Bucky escaped. Bucky got away, right? After he found out who Bucky was, I mean, Cap was always fighting him to the degree of, I don't want to hurt him. I'm not going to hurt. Like, even in the fights, I'm not going to fight you. Do what you got to do. And boom, and he shoots him and all this kind of stuff. You got to understand that Bucky was not Cap's equal. He could put up a fight. He could definitely put up a fight. But if Cap, from my point of view, at any rate, if Cap ever decided that Bucky Barnes needs to die, like if Sharon Carter, if Peggy came forward in time and Cap was reunited with her and then Bucky came in and murdered her, you wouldn't want to be Bucky Barnes. You would not want to be Bucky Barnes in that scenario. Because I think Cap would have savaged him. I think Cap would have outright savaged him at that. And the only reason he didn't, and don't get me wrong, it's not like Captain America completely, I don't think Steve completely outclasses Bucky, but I think a lot of that, you got to keep in mind that in a lot of that stuff, in the one fight, Bucky escapes the first time they confront, and then in the other time, he just didn't want to hurt him badly. He was trying to reach him. He's trying to save him. But anyway, something to keep in mind there. All right, next up. RJT Technovine writes, I don't think the Countessa will be Madam Hydra. I mean, listen, I think there's good arguments to be made why she might and why she might not. Shouldn't take anything for granted or assume anything. We just know that these are all possibilities, and let's see what we find out as we progress, not just in the next episode, but also in Black Widow. Elif Rasley writes, I can't believe we have to wait another week to see Sam use the shield. I have a feeling the finale will be awesome. I agree. I think the finale will be great. They've built up a lot. I just really wish that in that last scene, Elif, I really wish in that last scene that we got to maybe not put the suit on, but that we at least would have gotten to see him pull whatever's in the case out and hold it up. I really wish they had given us that, but now we got to wait an entire another week to get a look at that. And that's okay. I can live with that. It's all right. But I'm excited to see that. I wish they had showed us that. Elif also writes, I wonder if the Wakandans gave him new wings or a Captain America suit. What's in the briefcase? We shall see. You know what? My guess, and it's just a wild speculation guess, my guess is a combination of the two. I think it will be a Captain America inspired design, and it will have Wakandan technology wings. I just don't think he can get away from the Falcon aspect of who he is. I think he needs those wings. It's kind of what sets him apart. And I hope he doesn't lose that part of his identity. So my guess, and again, just a random wild guess, I think it'll be a combination of both. A Captain America inspired suit with the wings. But we'll find out. All right, Elif also writes, is the Countessa the power broker? I don't think so, but it is a possibility. Is that why she wants Walker? Well, I mean, a lot of people could think that could be a Thunderbolts thing. CJLD, Julie Louis-Dreyfus, took me out of the episode for a minute. I thought, is this a Veep/Marvel costume? I was just saying the same thing myself. It did take me out for a minute because it's Elaine. It's Veep. It's Julie Louis-Dreyfus. It did take me out of it for a minute. I completely concur with you on that. It did pull me out for a second here. But I'm excited to see where they're going to go. The possibilities are endless. All right, next up. Arun writes, I think the main difference between John Walker and Steve Rogers is that Steve never addressed himself as Cap. Even to Groot, he said, I am Steve Rogers. Oh, no, the difference is definitely moral. It's moral code. The difference is the true purity of spirit. John Walker calling himself Captain America, I am Captain America. That's not what's different between him and Steve. That's a result of the difference between him and Steve. You know what I mean? You know, coughing doesn't make you sick. Coughing is a result of an underlying sickness. Not always. A cough can just be a cough. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. But, you know, the cough isn't the sickness. The cough is the symptom of the sickness, right? It's the symptom of the sickness. So, again, I don't think him calling himself Cap is what makes him different from Steve. I think the underlying nature of their character is what's different between Steve and John and everybody else. It's not just John Walker. It's the difference between Steve Rogers and everybody else. And him calling himself and proclaiming himself to be Captain America is but a symptom of that underlying issue. But I totally see where you're going for with that, Arun. I do. All right, next up. Entertain Nerd Studios writes, Wyatt Russell and his rage as actor and his range as actor was powerful as well. Anthony Mackie and one more thing, Contessa, new head of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Miss Madam Hydra, like comic books. Again, I don't know. Like I was saying a little bit earlier, her introduction here, it opens a lot of possibilities of what they might do. Understanding that the comics are the comics, the movies, and the MCU is the movies in the MCU. So whatever happens to the comics is not what they need to do in the MCU, but it offers possibilities and things you have to consider. And I think all of this is on the table. I think there are a lot of different directions they can go with this. I'm very excited to see where they go. And you're right. The performances, Sebastian Sam, Anthony Mackie, Wyatt Russell, they have been fantastic. They have been absolutely fantastic. And that's one of the reasons why I'm enjoying the show is because the performances are making us buy into these characters even more, and it's working for me on a great level. All right, Elif writes, I hope this isn't the last we see of Zemo in the MCU. I don't think it'll be, because listen, if it was going to be the last we see of Zemo in the MCU, they probably would have killed him. I think the reason he ends up being taken away and put on the raft is because we are going to see him again. Anyway, I'd like to see more of his dance moves in future movies. LOL. Me too, Elif. Me too. All right. Elif also writes 1 of 2. Episode 5 gave me a lot to think about. Juxtapositioning the scene where Walker lies to Lamar's family about the person who killed him and the scene where Sam tells Bucky to do the work and give the old man closure. That's a really good observation, Elif. That is a great observation. Walker won't tell the truth. Bucky is willing to do the right thing, but the difficult thing. Well, Bucky hasn't done it yet. Let's remember that. Bucky also hasn't done the difficult thing yet. He's going to in episode 6, but he hasn't done so yet. Anyway, Elif, you know what? I didn't even think about that comparison. That is an excellent, excellent comparison. You know, what Sam has counseled Bucky to do and what he will probably do in episode 6, juxtaposed against what John Walker did with Lamar, it's like, no, the person who actually killed your son got away. And just out of rage and revenge, I just killed somebody who was with her. Now, listen, to be fair too, to be a little fair, in law, like, if you were part of a bank robbery and one of the dudes in your bank robbery crew kills a guard, guess what? You are liable. You're part of that. You can be found guilty of murder if you were a part of that. There's a lot of extenuating circumstances, but I'm just saying. So it's not like that dude that Walker killed was completely innocent. He was part of Carly's crew. He was part of the organization that blew up the building and killed those people. And if you're with Carly and Carly kills somebody, you're kind of a little bit responsible. You're responsible for that too. So I'm not saying that justifies John Walker's actions. Don't get me wrong. I am not saying that justifies John Walker's actions. I'm just saying there's a lot of gray area in here, right? There's a lot of gray area in that as well. But anyway, Elif, that was a brilliant observation, a juxtaposition between those two scenarios. Well done. All right, next up, David Morgan Jr. writes, Elaine is working for the power broker Newman. Hello, Newman. Newman is the power broker. I think you just nailed it, David. You completely nailed it. I love your theory. All right, next up, Ryan Lohner writes, I'm very impressed they were able to keep Julie Louis-Dreyfus a total secret until today. It makes total sense that this is Selena Meyer. Listen, when she popped up, that's the first thought other than Elaine. The next thought in my mind was, how the hell did they keep that secret? I mean, it's not like, Chris Evans popping up, but that's significant. Having Julia Louis-Dreyfus pop up in this and nobody was talking about it. At least I didn't hear anybody talking about it. That to me was pretty impressive. So yes, my first thought was Elaine, but my second thought, Ryan, was just like yours. It was, how the hell did they keep this secret? It really did catch me by surprise. All right, Juno Faulkner writes, one of two. Walker probably Googled do-it-yourself Captain America shield tutorial on YouTube. LOL. I do wish that that beating lasted longer though, and Sam's vibranium wings are going to look immaculate. A chef's kiss. Mwah. Sharon's power broker chances also went up even further, and man, Isaiah's story was heartbreaking. All of that is true, Juno. All of that is true. And if, as I'm guessing, that we are going to see a suit that is a mixture between the wings of the Falcon with a Captain America inspired design, that is going to look pretty awesome. That's going to look great. I mean, no doubt about it. That is going to look really, really great. And the Sharon thing, see, I don't know if the events of this episode increases the chances that she's the power broker, or if it's decreased the chances that she's power broker. I'm a little bit torn on that. I'm not completely sure. It depends. Is she double crossing? I don't know. I don't know. We'll find out soon enough, though. We'll find out soon enough. Let's see here. Next up, Josh Bing writes, I love the OG Cap, but as a black man, to see another black man training to be the next Captain America in my home, the South, meant so much to me. Hey man, listen, the only way I can relate on that is like, I've told this story before, like when, as an Italian, and this is a limited comparison, very, very limited comparison, but as an Italian and a big UFC fan, when I see like the Legionnaire, who I believe is now retired, but when I would watch the Legionnaire go into the ring, there's something inexplicably that I feel about that. It's like I had never seen before Legionnaire. I had never seen an Italian UFC fighter. Like we've got Vittori is in there now, and he's a handful, Vittori. But at the time, Legionnaire was the first and only Italian mixed martial artist I saw fighting in the UFC, and it's hard to describe how that made me feel. It's hard to describe how that made me feel. Like I felt really good about that. So on a very, very limited level, I totally get where you're coming from on that. On a limited level, this is something different, but I think it achieved its desired results, Josh. Thanks for sharing your perspective on that and your thoughts on that, brother. All right, next up, Gavin Lothar writes, and sends in like a $20 super chat. Thank you, man. I feel like people need to stop misrepresenting Cap and Sharon's relation to each other. She's Peggy's niece, which means that Peggy most likely had a brother who had Sharon. She's not related to Steve by blood. No, that's true. I think we all understand that. It's his niece. It's still something. Like, listen, Gavin, all due respect, my film-loving brother in our movie-loving family here. All due respect, it's still a little creepy. Like, you don't walk in on the uncle banging the niece saying, oh, it's okay, it's not by blood. It's perfectly cool. It's perfectly good. Enjoy, you two. Have fun. Have fun. Be safe. Don't get pregnant. It's still a little bit creepy. Like the idea of it is still a little bit creepy, even if it's not by, but anyway, it's still a little weird that they kiss knowing she is his niece by marriage, but people act as if they are blood relatives, and I'm sick of it. I'm sorry if this comes across as aggressive. It's just been bugging me for years. I don't know, man. I still think it is extremely creepy. Now, obviously, Steve didn't know that, right? He didn't know that. I don't blame Sharon and I don't blame Steve. You know? I don't blame either of them. It's just like, yeah, at the end of the day, just like you don't blame Luke or Leia for kissing in Empire Strikes Back. They didn't know. You don't blame them for that. But afterwards, when you find out, you're like, oh, right? I mean, it's not like they're Game of Thronesing it. You know? It's not like brother and sister are banging each other in the royal throne room or anything like that. Is it? No. But it's a little creepy. It's a little creepy. All right. Next up, Tyler Pfeiffer writes, Julie Louis-Dreyfus's character was apparently supposed to debut in Black Widow. That's my understanding as well. Does this mean she's still going to be in the movie? I think so. Loved how they kept that a secret. I agree. Now, look, we don't know for sure that that's the case, but that is my understanding right now. That may or may not turn out to be true. But it is my understanding right now from what I heard that Julie Louis-Dreyfus will be in the Black Widow movie, as far as I know. As far as I know. That may not turn out to be true. I'm not staking anything on that. I mean, it very well may not be true. But as far as I know, that is the case, Tyler. So we'll find out in just a couple of months. We will find out in just a couple of months if she is in there. But I'm expecting her to be at this point. But I won't be shocked if she's not. All right, next up. Suthius writes, harsh symbolism of John ripping off Sam's wings. Yeah, wings represent freedom and spirit and spirituality, which describes Sam well the way he is with people. But in John's mind and him grunting, I am Captain America, he doesn't see that. He represents tyranny. His ways and his mentality are about force. The way he forces his way into situations demanding answers and compliance, and the way he does give people a chance to turn over a new leaf, and the way he doesn't give people a chance to turn over a new leaf really shows the dichotomy between him and Sam. Yeah, now listen, nobody was suggesting that after tying up people and putting them in a building and blowing up the building with them in it, that Sam was just going to let Carly slide. But he was trying to de-escalate the situation. Keep this from getting any worse. You know, no one else should get hurt, including Carly, whatever. But it's not like he was just going to go, oh, I'm sure you're a good person, Carly. You blew up that building with people in it. You can go. Like, I'm sure that wasn't on the table for Sam. I think he understood that this had to end with Carly being brought into custody. But that is a good representation of the difference between the two. And by the way, the ripping of the wings, to me, wasn't just a spiritual symbolism or a symbol of freedom. The wings are kind of everything that identify what Falcon is. Everything that Sam has been, really, in the MCU up to this point is represented by those wings. In ripping off those wings, he was kind of assaulting the very character of Sam, like destroying the image of Sam, destroying the image of Falcon, the Avenger. It was very symbolic in a lot of different ways, both in the ways that you pointed out and in other ways as well. By the way, guys, I am going to be turning off the super chat function here in just a couple of minutes because, I don't want to get too many questions put in here that I'm not going to have time to get to. Because as things stand already, we have probably about 200 questions and submissions. And so we're obviously not going to get through all of them today. So I'm going to do a companion video on Sunday. We're going to do our part 2 of this on Sunday where we will finish them off. But to make sure we don't fall too far behind, I am going to be turning off the super chat feature here in just a couple of minutes. So if you do have a comment, observation, theory, or question that you want to get in, you got about 2 minutes to get it in, and then we're going to be shutting that down. Then we'll get through as many of the remaining questions today, and then we will finish off all the remaining ones on our part 2 on Sunday. So just so everybody knows what's going on here. Okay, let's keep moving here now. So that was Suthius. Next up, Tyler writes, was Sharon on the phone with Batroc? Yes, she was. I can confirm that because I was watching the show with the subtitles on. It specifically said Batroc speaking in French. So yes, it was. And you can recognize his voice. That's what I gathered. Something tells me he's a double agent. Does this mean Sharon is power broker? Again, I think that can go either way. That little shot of her working with Batroc and She's the one who arranged for him to do that job of kidnapping that military guy in the first episode. You could make an argument for it either way. This either proves she's the power broker or it proves that she's not. And I'm not quite sure which way they're going to go with it. I'm not exactly sure which way they're going to go with it here, Tyler. I'm as curious to find out as anybody else. I totally am. All right, next up. Lucid Freem writes, "Hey, John and gang. Over under 50%, Mr. Nakashima is understanding and forgives Bucky. Thanks for doing these spoiler discussion shows." Dude, right now, to me, that's the $1 billion question. The $1 billion question right now is, how is Yori going to respond? I hate to say it, but it should be negatively. If he is about to come face, he doesn't know it yet, but he's about to come face to face with the man who murdered his son. I think the initial, if I'm writing this show, and everybody should thank whatever God you worship that I don't, but if I were writing this show, I think it needs to be a very hard scene. And I think it would only be understandable that this guy finding out that this man he befriended is the man who murdered my son and I never knew. I think it's got to go badly. At least I think the first conversation needs to go badly. So I'm going to go over 50% that he does not forgive him instantly. I'm going to go over 50% that he does not forgive him instantly. Now they may write it that way. Look, I even think there's a possibility here that Bucky will be a crying mess and that Yori will put his hand on his shoulder and says, "I've known for a while now." How he would know, I don't know, but that could be a possibility. But I don't know. We'll see. But it is right now the $1 billion question of the franchise. It is right now the $1 billion question of the franchise, and we'll see which way they go with it. All right, next up, we've got, that was Lucid who wrote that. Next up is Suthius who writes, "I have a feeling somehow Zemo will escape the Dora. I would like that very much. I don't think he will. I do think we've seen the last of Baron Zemo in this series, but I will say this, Suthius, I hope you're right." Brandon Blake writes, "The show is so well written, it really is. There are no bad guys, only people making bad decisions based on their circumstances. The acting is top notch." Well, I mean, I would say this, Brandon. There are bad guys, but they're complex. And there's more to it than there is the black and the white, and then there is the 50 Shades of Grey. Carly may have the right motivation. But what we cannot escape from is Carly tied up helpless people, left them in a building, and then chose to blow up that building with those people she tied up and put in there and killed them. People who had brothers and sisters and wives and husbands and children. She tied them up, put them in a building, and then blew up the building. Now, we can say it's a little more complex than that. And by the way, Charles W. just sent in a super chat badge to be supportive. Thank you, Charles. Appreciate that, man. We can understand that it is more complex than just that. And we can understand the super soldier serum is probably doing to her what it would do to almost everybody other than Steve Rogers. And we can understand that. And she can have the best of motivations for why she started this whole crusade. And that makes it deeper, more complicated issues to struggle with. But that being said, at the end of the day, she made a choice to tie some people up helplessly, put them in a building, and then blow it up and straight up murder them. In the classical understanding, she's a bad guy. But it is more complex than that, right? And I love that they're doing it. Walker has become a bad guy, but it started from a place of wanting to serve, of wanting to do something good. but he can't handle that. And I don't know. It's beautiful the way it's being done. What I will say, Brandon, if what you're saying is like, there's no pure black and white. There's no pure, this is the mustache twirling villain. These are the super noble heroes, right? It's a lot of gray. It's a lot of gray. And that is, I agree with you, one of the things that really makes me appreciate how they've navigated this show so far. So I'm with you on that. All right, next up, we got Ryan Holman, who writes, I knew that Walker would lose the Cap title. Yeah, I knew that was a possibility, but I was leaning towards, I thought the government was going to back his play. I'm glad they didn't, though. Didn't think he would be so outcasted by the government, lose all benefits, etc. This kind of stuff, unfortunately, happens with real veterans, not to get political. Yeah, but again, like, you got to understand, though, they really had no choice. I mean, at the end of the day, they really had no choice. The guy they appointed Captain America just executed a defeated and surrendering opponent in the streets in front of a load of witnesses and cameras so the world could see it happen. I was actually surprised they didn't court-martial him. I was surprised they didn't put him in jail. They let him off. They didn't even give him a dishonorable discharge. What did they call it? They called it an other than honorable discharge. So I'm not going to pretend to completely know what the wording of that means, but yeah, it was a scenario where they really kind of had no other choice, right? They kind of had no other choice, but it was heavy. That was a heavy, heavy moment in there, Ryan. And I didn't even think they would have a trial scene. If you remember yesterday during the pregame show, I said, I don't think there's room in just 2 episodes left for them to show the trial scene. And they made it happen, although it was very, very short, but I was kind of impressed that they did that. All right, Rylan also writes, Walker's shield will be the new Walker's shield will be the new ex-wife. It ain't going to work out for him. Yeah. I think he's going to try to block something with that shield, and he's going to somebody else earlier in the live chat called it, oh, he ordered that one off Wish. If you're into tech stuff and you've ever tried to order stuff off Wish, you know the joke about that. But yeah, I think he might try to use the shield as if it was the shield and then find out, oh, this doesn't work out so well. I like that. All right, next up, Rylan also writes, also, like the comparison between Walker, who always introduces himself as Cap, and Steve, who hardly ever does. Yeah, somebody else was mentioning that earlier. Like the Groot thing. I am Groot. I am Steve Rogers. Not, hey, put some damn respect on that. I'm Captain America. Now, to a degree, if you want to play devil's advocate, John Walker insisting on that could be a sign of respect to what Steve Rogers was. Like, hey, Steve Rogers made what Captain America, what this represents. So you put some respect on Captain America. I mean, maybe he looked at it like that. Probably wasn't. Probably was more self-driven, though. Probably was. You're probably right, Rylan. It was probably more self-driven. Anyway, Isaiah writes, Sam and Isaiah scene is my favorite character dialogue in the MCU since T'Challa and Killmonger. Watching the sunset. Lastly, Bucky is right. Bucky is right. Bucky is right-handed. That's it, everybody. Mephisto. Bucky is Mephisto. I love it. No, listen, that whole dialogue was great. That whole scene, and one of the things that made it great, Isaiah, was the fact that it was so different. I love it when, whether it's the MCU or the DCU or whatever, introduces something that has never really been done in a comic book genre before. And that kind of a conversation that was taking place between Isaiah and Sam was very unique. Like, they did things we've never seen done before in WandaVision, and now they're continuing to do some things we've never seen done before in the genre in Falcon and Winter Soldier. And it was definitely a powerful and meaningful moment as well. All right, Casey McNatt writes, with Zemo being taken to the raft and Madam Hydra looks to be recruiting, does this mean they are teasing Thunderbolts here, or is it something else? Again, it definitely sets up that it could be that, but let's not put all of our eggs in that basket, right? It's definitely a possibility. It's a very real possibility that as episodes progress and we're seeing new information, it's looking more and more likely, but I'm still not ready to say that's what they're doing. but it is definitely something else. But we can't forget, Casey, that it could also be something else as well. Let's just keep gathering information. Let's just keep letting the MCU give us more info, and then we'll know sooner rather than later. But I'll say this. Whereas I before thought that they weren't going to head in the direction of the Thunderbolts, I'm starting to think, well, no, I think it's more of a possibility than I was willing to believe before. So we'll see where they go with that, Casey. All right. Evelyn writes, do you think we'll see Sam and Bucky apart in the final episode, like in episode number 1, or will they team again to either fight Walker or Callie? They better. You can't call this show Falcon and Winter Soldier and not have Falcon and Winter Soldier in the finale, in the big climax of the series. You got to have them there. Not to mention, it would be really dumb on Sam's part to travel to New York alone. Because that's great. You got the shield. Fantastic. That'll help. You're still fighting 5 or 6 super soldiers, and they will kill you. He doesn't even know Batroc's there. So it would be pretty damn dumb if he just went without getting a hold of Bucky. Because remember, him and Bucky talk like, hey, what's Carly going to do? Get a hold of me. When you need to, get a hold of me. So they better have the two of them there. So I think we'll see them together. At least I really, really hope they do. All right. I think it was the Zombie Slayer say Bucky lives in Brooklyn, so it's not like he's far. There you go. Bucky's already there. That's a great observation, man. That's a great observation. Spooky in the live chat. This is great. Says, but John, he did push-ups for a whole week. I take it back. He could totally handle 5 or 6 super soldiers. Well said, Spooky. Well said. All right. Evelyn also writes, Wanda is like Oprah now. Everyone gets Wakanda is like Oprah now. Everyone gets vibranium. Well, remember, King T'Challa opening up Wakanda probably meant they were willing to let a little bit more vibranium go out into the world, but maybe not much. They're probably still very protective of it. But Wakanda is very aware that when the battle for the fate of the world was happening within Wakanda's borders, and Thanos' legions were attacking Wakanda, Sam Wilson the Falcon was one of the people trying to hold the line there with them and fought alongside of the Wakandans. He got dusted, but Wakanda remembers that he was there fighting on their soil, shoulder to shoulder with Wakanda, right? So it's not just like they were just, oh yeah, you want somebody to have vibranium? Sure, here you go. I'm sure when Bucky says, hey, that one warrior who fought alongside of all of us trying to save Wakanda and the world, Sam Wilson the Falcon, there's another battle he has facing him and he needs something. On that level, I get it. Yeah, I think that one makes sense to me, actually. All right. Where are we at here? Totodile Dundee just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Totodile. Ryan Trabuco send in like a $50 super chat just to be supportive. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that, man. Marie Seifring writes, the conversation between Isaiah and Sam was intense. That is a great word for it, intense. And listen, there was also an element of it that was difficult to watch. And I love scenes like that. Sometimes in these types of stories, there need to be conversations that happen that are uncomfortable for even us as the audience to watch. And those conversations, quite honestly, are often the most important of the conversations to have. And watching the way Isaiah explained things and the interaction he's having with Sam, it was uncomfortable, but that's kind of what made it special. And so, yeah, I completely see what you're saying about that. All right. Marie also writes and sends in like a $20 super chat. Thank you, Marie. Marie writes, so I have connected the dots correctly. So have I connected the dots correctly? Sharon Carter called Batroc and he owed her for failing on a previous mission, and then he shows up in New York to give explosives to Carly. Batroc helps Carly get Falcon. That's on its surface, Marie. That's what it looks like. On the surface, what it looks like is that Sharon is the one who hired Batroc to kidnap that guy off the plane in episode 1, that Falcon stopped him, and now she's connecting Batroc with Karli. That's what it looks like. Now, quite often in these types of movies and shows, what it looks like is not always what it seems. So there could be more to it. Maybe it's a double cross. Maybe it's a, I don't know. I don't know. It's, I don't know. But it is, you perceived it correctly. That's what they're presenting to us. Is that the reality of it though? We'll probably find out in episode 6. All right. Evelyn writes, unlike WandaVision, this show does feel like it will be there will be a second season, which I'm totally okay with, because there is a lot more stories for these two. I agree. Like, I don't believe there's going to be a WandaVision season 2. I think that was a limited series. I do believe, unless Bucky dies in the finale, I do believe there will be a Falcon and Winter Soldier season 2. I think we just want to see more of these two guys together. I'm more convinced of that after seeing the whole boat montage with the two of them. I loved the boat fixing montage. It's crazy in this MCU thing where they're battling super soldiers and, vibranium arms and blah, blah, blah. One of the things that I'm thinking about that I love so much was just a boat fixing montage, but I thought it was great, and I make no apologies for that. All right. OJ Man 654 writes, great episode. I agree. It was a great episode. Fight between Bucky, Sam, and John was great. Sharon is acting kind of sus, though. Left me asking, what's in the box? Well, we know it's in the box. It's a uniform. But what is that uniform going to be? Will it have wings? Will it be the Captain America inspired design? Will it be vibranium? I think it probably will be vibranium. That's why he got Wakandans to make it. But I'm dying to see it, dude. I am dying to see it. And that opening fight was great. And you're damn right. Like, there's something sketch going on with Sharon. How much and to what degree, we'll find out in the next episode. Jake Pyle writes, and sends in like a $27 super chat. Thank you, Jake Pyle, for supporting our channel on that level, man. Seriously, thank you very much. Hi, John. Love the show. Thank you so much, Jake. Best episode of the season for me. Bucky and Sam versus Walker was amazing. I agree. So was the scene between Bucky and Sam at his sister's house. I agree. And Sam training session. What was your favorite part of the episode? I mean, it was the boat fixing montage. I think it was the boat fixing montage and just that stupid little silly, hi, I'm Bucky. Hi, I'm Sarah. And then Sam just looking at this like, what the hell is happening here? I don't know why. I found that delightful and charming and great. But again, so much, that opening fight, the Sam and Isaiah conversation, just so much of it. So much of it was so good. And I just kind of ate it up. Even the training montages. Like Sam, okay, Sam is now a parkour guy. Okay, great. That works. Do them push-ups, Sam. Do them push-ups. But you do got to be in top physical condition. But I like the training montage. I thought that was fun. But I think probably, if I'm going to be honest, it's the one that just made me smile and just kind of enjoying the charm of it, which was, again, the fixing the boat scene. That whole thing to me was really great. All right, next up. Tyler Pfeiffer writes, Zemo's arrest seemed a bit anticlimactic to me. Yeah, it did a little bit. Something doesn't seem right. Up to something? I bet he's one of the post-credit scenes next week. Oh, I wouldn't doubt that at all, Tyler. I wouldn't. Now, I'm not predicting we're going to see this, but I'm just saying I wouldn't doubt if one of the post-credit things we get is him arriving on the raft and then making a connection or finding out that he ain't going to be there long or that somebody's got a plan for him. I wouldn't doubt that at all. I'm also not going to be shocked and surprised if they don't, but I think we might. But again, I think other than a post-credit scene, I think he is done in this series. But I hope I'm wrong. All right, PR writes. So next episode is going to be about a group of radicals attacking a government building to stop a vote. Sounds oddly familiar. What are we talking about? I'm not thinking of it off the top of my head. Do you guys know what PR is talking about there? I can't think of it off the top of my head. There's probably a big obvious one. It's probably an obvious one. What do you guys have? I don't think you're talking about Batman versus Superman, are you? Because that was really kind of a different thing. Oh, real life Capitol building things. Yes. I was trying to think in terms of other movies, but yes, yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, that does seem a little bit familiar. You're right. All right. Jake Pyle writes, do you think Sharon or Valentina is the power broker? Again, we've talked about that a lot. The possibilities are definitely there on the table. I still lean towards it being somebody new. Somebody that we haven't met yet. But those two are definitely possibilities, Jake. They're both possibilities that are on the table for sure. Spark the producer writes, so Julia Dreyfus was the cameo. Valentina Fontaine, yes, she was. And again, my whole thing about it was I was just so taken by those two things. Number one, I was distracted because it's Elaine. And the other thing was, how did they keep this secret? How on earth did they keep this secret? That was impressive. The fact that they were able to keep that under wraps as well as they did. So, interesting. We'll see where they're going to go with that. Marie Seifring writes, Io is taking Zemo to the raft instead of to prison in Wakanda. Io tells Bucky to stay out of Wakanda for now. Did Bucky negotiate for Zemo to raft? That's my assumption, Marie. Now, got to acknowledge there is nothing that happened in the episode that verifies that assumption. Nothing in the episode clearly and definitively says that Bucky negotiated with the Dora Milaje that number one, they don't just execute him on the spot, and number two, they take him to the raft, because if he ends up in Wakanda, he's going to at some point be executed. Got taken to the raft. But there's nothing in the show that verifies that. So I, like you, am going to assume that that's the case, that Bucky reached out to them and says, look, I will hand him over to you, but you can't take him back to Wakanda and you can't kill him. He might think he needs him at some point. I don't know. But that's the assumption. Until the MCU tells us otherwise, I'm going to go on that assumption, Marie, even though there's nothing there to verify it. All right, last question I'm going to take before we take another little bit of a break here because my voice is starting to crack. We're going on my 4th hour today of live streaming. Jake Pyle writes, do you think that Valentina Allegra will be the main villain of Phase 4? No. And maybe 5 of the MCU? No. I think, because when we're talking, we mentioned this a little bit earlier in the stream today. When you're talking about a main villain in the MCU, the big bad of the MCU, you're talking a significant character. You're talking a Galactus or a Doctor Doom or a Magneto. Not that I'm saying any of these guys are coming in now, but I'm saying somebody of that kind of stature. Somebody of that kind of stature. So my guess is no. A player? Yes, a player. But like the big baddie? No, I don't think that'll be the case. That'll be coming off of Thanos. That'd be kind of a massive letdown, but we'll see. All right, next up. Marie Seifring. Oh, I said that would be the last one. We'll take one more. Then we'll take a break. Marie Seifring writes, in episode 5, Julie Louis-Dreyfus shows up as Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. According to Vanity Fair, this character was supposed to debut in Black Widow, which is, again, what we've all heard. I believe she will be in Black Widow. Remember what I said last time? In the pregame show yesterday, a lot of people were speculating that Taskmaster was going to be the power broker. And I said, I don't buy that. And the reason I don't buy that is if Taskmaster ended up being the power broker, there is no way they would let Falcon and Winter Soldier come out first, because that then basically gives us all the information about Taskmaster for when Black Widow comes out. What I said on the show yesterday was, I bet you there's going to be another character that is connective tissue between Black Widow and Falcon and Winter Soldier, but it's not going to be Taskmaster, because that takes out the entire mystery of Taskmaster once we get into Black Widow in a couple of months. And so, yes, it does kind of look like Elaine is that connective tissue character. And to what degree she's going to be involved there, don't know. We'll see, but I definitely think she's going to be a player. Okay, guys. I'm going to try to keep going as long as I can. You can probably hear it. My voice is starting to go. I've now been live streaming today for 4 hours. Let's see. So when we are going to take a 3 or 4 or 5 minute break, we will come back with Jake Pyle and Jay Meister. So hang tight, guys. Go grab yourselves another drink. Talk amongst yourselves. We will be right back. Okay, guys, and we are back. Thank you for your patience there as I took a moment there to stretch my legs, refill my drink, and I'm not quite sure how much longer we can go. My voice is starting to go, but we will get through as many more of the questions as we have here. And then, guys, whatever questions we don't get to, we will finish off in part 2 of our open spoiler discussion here on Sunday. So let's not waste any more time and get back over to it. We're going to get things going here with, that was Marie. Now we're at Jake Pyle, who writes, this episode is also the first episode of the season where I was like, damn it, I have to wait a week for the next one. I was like that for almost every week for WandaVision. This season has been disappointing to me, even though I have enjoyed every episode in this season, apart from episode 3, which I did not like. I was expecting it to be better. Well, I mean, I liked it more. I have enjoyed it more than you have, Jake. But I will say, episodes 1, 2, and 3, I enjoyed the series. With moments in episodes 1, 2, and 3 that have been like a couple of fantastic moments. But I agree with you that after 3 episodes, I was not as hooked into Falcon and the Winter Soldier as I was hooked into WandaVision by the end of 3 episodes. Like after 3 episodes of WandaVision, like that was it. I was so in. Falcon and Winter Soldier up until episode 3 had been good with a couple of brilliant moments, but I wasn't like in love with it the way I was in love with WandaVision. And then last week happened. Then episode 4 happened. And I'm like, okay, this is the fulfillment of the promise of what a Falcon and Winter Soldier show could be. And I ate it up. And I'm with you after that episode. That was the first time since Falcon and Winter Soldier started. Like I was always looking forward to the next episode, but that was the first time last week that episode ended. I'm like, holy hot damn, how long do we got to wait until the next episode? Start the countdown. You know what I mean? I hadn't felt like that before, but I do now, ever since last week's episode and now this week's episode. And it just sucks. It just sucks that we only have 1 episode left. Because by the time we got through 5 episodes in WandaVision, we still had 4 episodes to go, and now we just got the 1. But I am now completely on board. But I got to admit, Jake, it took me a few episodes to get on board with it the way I got on board with WandaVision. But yeah, the last couple of weeks are really the ones that kind of put me there. All right, thanks for sharing your thoughts on that, Jake. JMeister25 writes, how many times do we have to pay with our lives just to be citizens of this goddamn planet? That was a great line. Oof, what a line. Love that this about Earth, not borders. You love that this is about Earth and not about borders. And again, listen, this just goes back to what was being said earlier, J Meister, about, there's a lot of 50 Shades of Grey. She's a villain in this show. She is the antagonist of this show to a degree. But it's not just that black and white. It started off for Carly as a desire to help people and to right a wrong and to do good. That's gone way out of hand. It's gone way out of hand. And who knows what she's got in mind for the people at the GRC when they go in and take over that GRC thing. What's she going to do with them? Is she just trying to have a conversation with them? Is she going to execute some of them like she executed other people of the GRC when they blew up the building? I mean, I don't know. But it's always 50 Shades of Grey. But that line was great. That line was great. I really did enjoy it. All right, next up. Jake writes, do you think we will get season 2 of this show? I do. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I feel a lot better about the idea of Falcon and Winter Soldier getting a season 2 than I do. I don't think we're going to get a season 2 of WandaVision, but I think we're going to get one of Falcon and Winter Soldier. We'll find out if I'm right or wrong. All right. Tyler Neal writes, great episode, but I don't think Sam needs to be the next Cap. He just needs to be the best hero he can be. I feel the exact same way. Now, I do think right from the beginning of the show, it seems like the course they've charted is that Sam is going to be the new Captain America. I don't want them to do that. I don't want Bucky or Sam or John Walker or anybody else to be Captain America. Steve Rogers is Captain America, period, end of sentence, done. But it does seem like that's the direction they're going. But, I mean, what I would like to see them do is Sam take up Steve's shield as his own character and carry on that legacy, even having a Captain America inspired themed costume, still have his Falcon wings, maybe call himself Uncle Sam. I mean, I don't know. That would be kind of a dumb name, but whatever. But I'd still like to see him be that. But like I said earlier in the show, while I do not want anybody else taking up the name of Captain America, because to me, Captain America is Steve Rogers, is Captain America is Steve Rogers, is Captain America is Steve Rogers. After seeing everything that we saw in episode 5, it will make it sting. Episode 5 will make it sting a little bit less to me with Sam taking up the shield, and maybe even Sam taking up the Captain America mantle. But I would prefer that Sam be inspired by Captain America, pay homage to Captain America, but call himself something else. But I don't know. We'll see where they go. Whatever they do, I'm sure it's going to be great. Let's see. Next up, Darth Grant writes, 1 of 3. This was the first episode I watched twice. I loved it, but as a 24-year-old black man myself, I don't know how to feel about Isaiah's remarks regarding the history of Black America being erased for 500 years. You can think back to a Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, G.W. Carver, etc., etc. Yeah, that's true. We know those names, but there are a lot of names we don't know. Anyway, 3 of 3. What he's talking about, but then I thought about it more. How many influential black people actually have? You just said what I was thinking. You just said exactly what I was thinking. Gonna write more. Have been erased from American history. For every Martin Luther King, there may have been 3 Isaiahs over time. Absolutely true. You would have cases like the Bruce's Beach incidents. What of the black revolutionaries that helped defend this country from British rule, etc., etc. It's easy not to understand Isaiah's point of view when you're not looking at the complete picture. But even still, I'm glad Sam got Isaiah's perspective, but isn't letting it solely drive his decision. I think you just kind of summed it up perfectly, Darth Grant. You summed it up perfectly. And that was kind of also the message of Sarah, Sam's sister, to Sam in the episode, right? It's like, okay, yeah, you listened to Isaiah. You needed to understand what Isaiah's experience was. You needed to understand him. But are you going to now let him dictate what you do? And then Sam kind of passed on that same message to Bucky when it's like, you can't let what somebody else thinks of you, even if that somebody else is Steve Rogers. You can't let what somebody else thinks of you allow you to see yourself in that way or be defined by what it is somebody else. Even somebody as great as Steve Rogers, you can't let that define you. And I think that was a pivotal moment. And so, I heard somebody on Twitter say, well, Sam deciding to train with the Shield completely wipes away the importance of that conversation he had with Isaiah. And to that I say, absolutely not. If anything, it makes it all the more meaningful that understanding the legacy of the Shield from different people's perspectives, understanding what it is Isaiah went through, it makes it all the more meaningful of what Sam now decides to do with it moving forward. So anyway, that was my kind of take on it. So I think you just nailed it, Darth Grant. I think you nailed it perfectly. Well said. All right, next up, Tyler Neal writes, as a black man, this episode meant a lot. Would any black man or woman want to carry that shield or title as Captain America? I mean, and that was one of the, how exactly did Isaiah word it? Because he was pretty harsh with it, the way he worded it in that final kind of salvo he said to Sam, like, correct me where I'm wrong, guys, but it was something along the lines of, the government was never going to let a black man be Captain America. And what did he say? Like, no self-respecting black man would want to carry that shield. It was something like that along those lines. I can't remember. There it is. J Jav Dav in there says, he said, no self-respecting black man would take the job. There you go. And I mean, those are strong words. Those are harsh words. And they're words that Sam needed to hear and words that Sam took to heart. And it's not that he disregarded those words. It's that he used those words as a part of his decision-making process about why it was then important for him to take it up. Because like he said to his sister, if I don't continue on the fight, then what was the point of all the sacrifice? What was the point of the fight if I don't carry it on now? And it's not that he discarded what Isaiah said, it's that he really took it to heart, and that became part of his motivation. And I thought that was actually really meaningful, and I like that part a lot. All right, Dirk Walker writes, I wondered why the show spent so much time on the boat. I realized fixing versus selling the boat equals fighting to improve America versus turning your back on it. There could be a deeper meaning to that. You're right, Dirk. I hadn't really considered that, but the boat itself could become an analogy for the very struggle that Sam is going through personally. Do you just get rid of that legacy, or do you fight for that legacy? When you realize that there is the legacy itself, you may not know it, and a lot of people in America may not know it, but the legacy of America and that shield is a little bit more tainted than what people realize. Do you discard that legacy, or do you fight for that legacy? And so maybe, you might be right, Dirk, maybe the boat itself became an analogy for that very struggle and decision that Sam himself was trying to come. It's a good observation. I like that. I like that. Oh, Darth Grant put in one more thing, 177. It's an extremely gray area, and I wish I had more money to continue my thoughts. Next week, maybe. Also, Sharon as power broker makes no sense. Well, it depends. It depends, Darth, on what is happening here. Because you're right. When I first saw that she was arranging for Batroc to go and help Carly, I'm like, well, then that makes no sense. She's not that. But if she is actually arranging all of this as a double cross for Batroc to take Carly down, then that would kind of mean she is power. I mean, I don't know. I still think the most likely scenario here, not the only scenario, but I still think the most likely scenario here is that Power Broker is going to end up being somebody we don't know about. But I still think the book on Sharon Carter is open. I still think that book is open. All right. Next up, we got Darth Grant, who writes, one of two. If Sharon was Power Broker, why put a bounty on their heads just to kill people to save them? Listen, MCU has done a lot of stranger things. Why lead them to her golden goose? Her actions have been working against what would be the Power Broker's priorities. At least what we think we know about the Power Broker's priorities. Nonsense if she is. Also, episode 6 end credits will be a setup for the Avengers. I don't think they're there yet. I think we're going to get 2 post-credit scenes at the end of episode 6, but I don't think they are ready to be setting up the next Avengers. You might be right, but I don't think so. As far as Sharon goes, listen, I've said this whole time, Sharon Carter as Power Broker is a bad theory. Partially because of some of the things that you listed. But as we have learned in the MCU, not everything is as it seems on the surface. And out of all the bad theories, and Sharon Carter is a bad theory, but out of all the bad theories, it is one of the least bad theories. The more likely scenario, like I said before, Darth, is that I think it's going to end up that somebody we have not known, not met, not been named person is going to end up being Power Broker, not somebody in the show that's there now. I think that is the most likely scenario. I'm not saying that's a guarantee. I'm just saying I think that's the most likely one. But I still do think Sharon's on the table because of everything we just said, but we'll find out. All right. Samuel Shin writes, Sam training with the shield and without the serum is the most Captain America thing he could have done, in my opinion. Also, vibranium suits, perhaps. Hey, Samuel, I have very little doubt. I mean, we might be wrong. But I got to admit, right now, I have very little doubt that suit is going to be vibranium. Because you don't need Wakanda to make that suit for you unless it's going to be a vibranium suit. You just go to Edna Mole, Edna, the one who makes the suits for the Incredibles. Just go to her. She can make it for you. I think the reason Bucky goes to the Wakandans for it is because I think he wanted it to be vibranium. Now, could be wrong, but let me put it this way. I will be surprised if the outfit is not vibranium. I'll be really, really shocked if it's not. So that's kind of the assumption I'm going on right now, Samuel. So I think so. All right, next up. Nicholas Bonnie Rowe writes, Here's why Sharon Carter is not the power broker. She sends GSP to help Carly. If she was, if she was power broker, wouldn't she send him to kill Carly instead? Also, does Zemo to the raft mean a future Thunderbolts project? It doesn't mean a future Thunderbolts project, but it certainly opens up that possibility. Like, I am more on board with that now than I was before, but it doesn't mean that's what's happening. Like, people are going to run out saying, confirmed Thunderbolt. No. Nothing is confirmed, but it definitely does make it more plausible. It definitely makes it more plausible. And again, that's exactly my thoughts, Nicholas. When we first saw that Sharon was helping Carly, I'm like, well, she can't be power broker. But then, like other people brought up, what if she actually sent Batroc in there to take down Carly? And this is all a setup. Well, then maybe she is power broker. Again, I think it's unlikely. I think Sharon Carter's power broker is a bad theory, just the least of the bad theories. I think ultimately it's going to be somebody we don't know. Maybe she's working for power broker. I don't know. All right, next up. Darth Grant writes, sorry, I mistyped. I meant and not understand. No, I got where you're going for. On my first post regarding Isaiah's point of view, so much to consider in this episode. Listen, this was the type of episode, Darth, that we could literally, we'll probably spend a year kind of really unpacking. And I think the significance and influence of things we saw happen in this episode are going to be touched on in the MCU as a whole, probably for the next coming period of time. And I think that conversation with Isaiah is going to be cornerstone to a lot of it. I really, at least for Sam's character. All right, next up. Silver Surfroy writes, logic issues with the quantum realm aside, I hope Cap can take a detour from replacing the stones to help Sam and Bucky in episode 6. They're going to need it against Batroc and the Flag Smashers. Listen, I still believe it is unlikely that Steve Rogers shows up, but I will give it a solid 25% chance. I think there is a solid 1 in 4 chance, which means it's a 75% chance he doesn't. But I think there's a 25% chance that Steve Rogers shows up. Now, whether it's Old Man Steve or whether it's the quantum realm traveling Steve, or I don't know how they would do it. I mean, I hope they don't do a quantum realm traveling thing. That wouldn't make a lot of sense. But I think there's a little bit of a chance. We'll see. I certainly hope so. I would, because you guys know, Steve Rogers is my favorite MCU character. Not my favorite comic book character, but my favorite MCU character. And I would totally love to see Old Man Steve show up there. All right, next up. Connie Sang writes, love seeing Sam's family dynamic in the show. So did I. I really enjoyed that a lot, Connie. You'd never know from the films because he was willing to go on the run with Cap after Civil War and offered to go with Cap to return the stones in Endgame. Yeah, it's true, but that's one of those things where sometimes duty has to take place, you know, in somebody like Sam, who is a soldier. Duty will take priority over, you know, personal interests. And that's a huge thing. But yes, I love his relationship with his sister. I think Sam's relationship with his sister is one of the coolest things about this show. I really like his sister a lot. Right from the episode when they went to the bank, all the way to talking to Bucky. I'm Sarah. I just thought that was so great. I'm Bucky. I'm Sarah. And Sam's like, I'm going to be sick. I love that, but I really like the character a lot, and I really do like that family dynamic. All right. Meta writes, hey, John, with Carly in New York City now, it seems like a fight could happen in New York City in episode 6. Over under 15%, Spidey shows up in the cameo. 0. He does have connective tissue with Sam and Bucky, and it's in New York City after all. He really, narratively, he doesn't have connective tissue with those characters. The only connection between Spider-Man and Sam and Bucky is that in the battle of Civil War, he briefly had to engage with both of them. But other than that, he really doesn't have a connection to them at all. It's not like he has any relationship built there. It's not like there's anything else. Yeah, other than the fact that it's in New York City, Spider-Man showing up out of nowhere would be like a really rando thing to happen. It would be like a completely out of nowhere thing. Wouldn't make a lot. I mean, yeah, Spider-Man is based there, but he has no idea what's going on. So not to mention, I I don't know where he's still trying to get readjusted into high school at this point, right? So I don't know. Anything's possible. But I think Spider-Man showing up would be like an absolute complete rando thing happening. And that seems to be the type of thing that the MCU doesn't like to engage in. Like completely with no explanation, no narrative purpose, no narrative logic. It just suddenly this person shows up for no reason. I don't see it happening. So not to mention, I don't think they'd have Spider-Man show up in an episode of TV. But who knows, man? Who knows? It is New York City. It may be possible. Now, CJ in the live chat is saying, isn't Spider-Man on his European trip? Remember, that European trip takes place like 8 months after the events of the snap, and we're only like 3 or 4 months or 5 months maybe after the events of the snap right now. So I think we're still probably several months separated from the events of Far From Home, I think, at any rate. All right. Next up, we've got... Spark the producer writes, 1, notice Bucky's arm glitch. Yes, and Spark during the fight. I did. 2, the case that Sam's new suit is in, the same type of case that Tony gave Peter with his Civil War suit. 3, Sharon playing both sides. I mean, yes, I did notice the glitch. I don't think it's the same type of case because Tony didn't have vibranium case. So no, I don't think I think it's just a Wakandan suitcase, man. I think that's just a pure, straight up Wakandan suitcase. So there's that. Sharon playing both sides? Maybe. I'm going to say this, though. While I am still unclear about which side of this Sharon is playing, I don't think she's actually playing both sides. She's definitively either working with Carly or against her. We just don't know. But I don't think she's playing both sides. But maybe she is. That could be a third option I haven't considered. So we'll have to think about that. Okay, guys, listen. We're approaching 2.5 hours now. I, of course, did a 2-hour John Campea show earlier today, so I've been live streaming for 4 and talking straight for 4.5 hours. My throat is just about gone right now, so we're going to have to wrap it up right now. But listen, we still have more questions to come from Raymond 2000, C. Rapier, and on. Do not worry, we will do part 2 of our Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 5 open spoiler discussion on Sunday, and we will get all the remaining questions that have, and thoughts and observations and theories, all the stuff that you guys sent in. We will get to all of the remaining ones on Sunday. We're probably about 2/3 of the way through all of them now, so probably got another hour and a half to go on Sunday, and we will get all those done. So make sure you check on back on Sunday for part 2 of this installment. But for now, guys, that'll do it for this installment of our Falcon and Winter Soldier open spoiler discussion. Thank you so much, guys, for being here and being a part of this. By the way, special thank you to all you guys who sent in your theories and thoughts and observations and speculations and questions. Number one, because you introduced a lot of things I hadn't even considered, which was great stuff, and I'm sure you did for everybody. But number 2, you also supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved here at the John Campea YouTube channel, thank you guys very, very much for your support and participation. Okay, guys, don't forget, do the 4 main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.